You. Hello, East Hampton Town Board. We are live, being recorded and streamed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board work session of August 20th, 2024. Cheryl, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Floyd.
Present.
Councilmember Lees.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Colvin.
Present.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So good morning, everyone. I see some new faces here, so let me explain how things go. We open up with public portion. We ask you to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you wanted to speak and you haven't had a chance to sign up, we will ask for a show of hands, and then you can come up to the podium. We'll also then go to LTV because there are some folks that are calling in with comment. After public portion, we have 4 topics that we'll be discussing today. And then we move on to liaison reports, where board members report out on projects they're working on, the things they want the community to know and their colleagues to know. And then we move on to resolutions. So I have a couple of people signed up. The first is Marilyn Fitterman. Welcome, Marilyn. Please come up to the podium.
I'm very hard of hearing.
Okay. We just ask that you speak into the microphone, so you can adjust it if you need to.
I know many of you. I've been here for over 30 years, and I love East Hampton. That's why I'm here. It was a very cold winter, so I went to stay with a friend down in Florida. And while I was in Florida, I had all my mail sent to Florida. However, the post office here, one letter they mailed me on January 23rd, I never got it. That made me lose my senior star exemption because I didn't know I had to fill this out. Now, I went to a lot of people in town to talk to them. I went to the assessor's office, et cetera, and everyone said there was nothing they could do. However, I'm not one, as an activist for many years, to lie down and accept that. So even if there's nothing they can do, I think you should know about it. And I think the town is small enough to make some kind of a difference on something like this happening. I'm not very wealthy, so the senior exemption is a lot to me. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you,
Okay?
Marilyn.
Thank you for letting me speak.
It's our pleasure. Next up is Matthew Udelson. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a little bit to read. It's like 4
Yeah,
minutes.
if you just have to say your name into the record for the clerk.
Matthew Udelson.
Great.
I represent Montauk Shores Condominium on behalf of 200 owners. So again, my speech is like 4 minutes, not 3. So I don't want you to think I'm going to sit here rambling through pages and pages. Good morning. My name is Matthew Udelson, manager of Montauk Shores Condominium in Ditch Plains. As many of you know, Montauk Shores submitted a site plan application over 1 year ago seeking approval of a proposed sewer treatment plant that is designed to remove 5,000 pounds of nitrogens from the groundwater discharge. I'm here today to update the town board on the status of the much anticipated advanced wastewater treatment system, which unfortunately has been delayed by the planning department. Before I get into the details, I want to thank the town board for approving a grant 3 years ago for $200,000 from the Community Preservation Fund for issuing a no environmental impact and a negative declaration from same as Suffolk County Department of Health issued in a similar negative declaration when approving the sewer treatment facility last December. I cannot stress enough the benefits of the project will bring to the community, including Ditch Plains, South Lake, Lake Montauk wetlands, ecosystems, and the marine habitats. Knowing this, and that the town board had already approved the project and granted $200,000, we reasonably expected that the sewer treatment plant would have been given a green light and that planning would have expedited our review and approval. Instead, what we experienced has been a series of inexcusable delays and frustrations. As a reminder, Montauk Shores has undertaken the $6 million project voluntarily. The condominium owners are under no obligation to replace the existing system, which is fully permitted and operational. The East Hampton Star published a lead article explaining the rising costs of the project to the owners at the condominium a few months ago. We all know that the planning department has a difficult and important job to do. However, we're not adding more homes or changing the layout. In fact, we recorded a restrictive covenant limiting the number of homes to 199, the same number that was approved back in 1977. No new parking is proposed. There was adequate building coverage available. The project is outside all natural resources or wetland setbacks. Engineering and designing of the system is beyond the planning board's expertise. The project has been approved by Suffolk County and the town board. The environmental benefits cannot be denied. And for years, we have heard planners, political leaders, and cries of concerned citizens for clean water. So why, when was our project stalled? The project could have been, if there were not for the fact that the filtration equipment is to be housed in an above-ground 1,700 square foot building that is completely hidden from public view or adjacent property owners who also have approved the project and signed off on it. The planning department would have no say, and we would have proceeded with a simple building permit. Ann Glennon, the former town chief building inspector, indicated as much prior to her departure, which is completely consistent with the town code. No person or association of owners seeking to voluntarily upgrade an existing sanitary system to a low nitrogen system with obvious benefits should be burdened with having to prove that it is settled in the law, established by precedent, or agreed to by prior agreements with the town. When the administrative review causes extra costs and delays, it should come as a warning to any other persons that this is not worth it to replace your sanitary system. Of course, this is the entirely wrong message. Instead, planning should expedite these projects. This is why we are recommending that the town board should adopt the code amendment that would streamline the process and encourage, not frustrate, the upgrading process to a low nitrogen system. We started this project in 2017. It was reviewed by the Suffolk County Health Department, different agencies for over 5-6 years. We submitted the presentation to the planning department in June of 23 with a reasonable expectation that we would be able to start construction this September of 2024. The bulk of the work is scheduled to occur during the winter months when we have minimal residents. If we don't start this September, we'll have to wait another year. Increase expenses and let the old system continue to operate for another year. Because of my limited time today, I've included some notes which I've given you explaining further details on the delays. Okay.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Okay, that's everyone that signed up. Is there anyone else? Jackie?
Hi, thank you for letting me speak today. I am Jackie McGovern. I am here to follow up on some correspondence that we had with the town about free pickleball courts in East Hampton town. The correspondence that I received back was to explain the pickleball courts that are in existence, and I just want to follow up on why those courts are not ideal. The first one that was suggested is to use the courts in Montauk. The time it would take to travel from my house to Montauk does not make this a viable option for me, especially in summer, the traffic and things like that. It just would be a whole day affair getting out to Montauk and getting back to be able to go play pickleball. The second option that was given to me was Spring School, and we have played at Spring School a number of times, but the net is not a regulation net, and it's very, very popular spot. There's always people playing tennis there, so it's a lengthy wait. So it's not really a regulation court or net. The other one that was suggested from the board was that there was going to be proposed courts at the YMCA. I believe that to play at I don't know where they're going to put them, but to play at the YMCA, it is a cost. It's not a free option. You have to be a member. And I have traveled throughout the United States, and everywhere I go, there's free pickleball. and it's a really fun sport. It's a sport that is good for young and old. And it really is something that could get the community together. We have been playing with a group of like 25 people for a while. We were playing at a club that is now private, so that's cost prohibitive. We can't play there anymore. So we're asking the town to give us an option for free pickleball play. We had heard through the grapevine that there were courts proposed at the Stephen Hands Path facility. The question is, what happened with that? Is there any way that that can still happen? And does the board have comment on that? Do you guys comment back?
We don't comment. We take public comment and we follow up with folks, phone calls, emails, meetings, but
Okay.
it's public comment, not.
Okay, no problem. All right, well, that's basically what I'm here to say today, and I hope that if the board has any questions about pickleball, I'm really good at it. I'm just kidding, I'm not that good, but we would love to have free pickleball courts in East Hampton Town.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Would anyone else? Sarah?
Good morning, members of the board. Sarah Davison from the Friends of Georgia Capon Foundation. I'm here today to express our support for the project you're going to hear about shortly, the Cove Hollow Pipe, Outfall Pipe Restoration. This is a stormwater remediation project, and Friends of Georgia Capon has worked hand in hand with the engineers who've done an excellent job of designing this project, and the town Natural Resources Department and the Village of East Hampton. Back in April, we submitted a letter of support for the project to the village, and I just wanted to come here quickly today to add our support to you as you consider this project. Although it's a unique location and situation with an extremely long stormwater pipe, it is our hope that this project can serve as a model for other road ends that discharge stormwater into our surface waters. And as you all know, given the past rainstorm we just had, the impact and effect of stormwater rushing out down roads into our bays and harbors. It's a very large source of contamination, bacterial contamination to our surface waters, and projects like this that intercept the stormwater, slow it down, meander it, and use traditional engineering and green engineering to affect the solution are very worth considering, and I hope you will consider it favorably. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Good morning. My name is Jim Graham. I'm the president of Montauk Shores Board. I just want to state that since I've been president, we've been working on this project, and the project went from $2.5 million to $5.5 million, and then now they say if it doesn't start this September, it's going to go up 2 to 3% more. I don't know if my residents could actually afford that anymore. We assess them $26,000 each already. I don't know if we could do any more. I know we have a few people that are multimillionaires that have nothing really to do with the park, but we have a lot of cops, firemen, postmen in the park that are living on a retirement. And I just want to hopefully that we can resolve this matter with the planning and building department. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Would anyone else like to address the board? Gloria?
Good morning, everyone. Good
morning.
Yay. I can't believe it's August already. Oh, except when I look at the traffic on the street. Sorry, I was late getting here. But anyway, will you talk about the stats?
I will talk about stats,
Great,
yes.
super. This is, as everyone knows.
Gloria, that's all.
Oh, Gloria Frazee rhymes with Daisy, Bolognese, and crazy. I'm here representing East Hampton Compost, which is a project of Rewild Long Island in collaboration with the town of East Hampton. And what makes this project work is, it is working, as Tom Flight will demonstrate later with some great statistics, But what makes it work is community. It's everyone here, everyone in the community, from the fabulous volunteers who show up week after week or 1 week, 2 weeks at a time, to staff the drop-off tables, to the high school students who are part of the Rewild Summer Program, who've been really fabulous. 2 of the students, along with a volunteer and Tom Flight, have since started the Montauk location, which is going gangbusters, as Tom can attest, since he is driving the food scraps from his hometown of Montauk over to the East Hampton Town Recycling Center every Monday morning. Woohoo! Also, Ian Calder Piedmont is recycling over at Balsam Farms, composting, and you cannot drop off there directly. You have to go through East Hampton Compost because we search through a lot of food scraps and remove the contaminants. Also, a huge shout out to Steve Lynch and Craig Fick at the East Hampton Recycling Center, who are now also composting. You cannot drop off there either directly. Come to East Hampton Compost. What this means is we are reducing food waste in the town of East Hampton. We are saving the town people money because all this food waste needs to be handled, whether it's through trash, landfills, greenhouse gases, you name it. There are a lot of different ways that this costs. Hauling food scraps from here to Up Island to Ohio to a landfill if it ends up in a landfill. So there's a lot of mileage put on these. So we want to keep it here. It's a resource that we want to keep in our town. It is super important for our soils, our shores, our people, our pollinators. It's just incredibly important for us as a town. What's important for us as a town is also to come together. We hear a lot about the town board doing great projects, about individuals doing great projects at home, working together. What we do with Rewild and with East Hampton Compost and the town board is bring people together to be part of something that is bigger than they are, to help our community, to help our families. Another project that we're doing is this Thursday, August 27th. It's a community coming together for Matthew's Pollinator Garden at the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum at the corner of North Main and Cedar. We're collaborating with the Lester family to celebrate our children and to restore this pollinator haven designed by their son Matthew, who lost his life in 2017. It's a family-friendly activity. Please bring your kids. We'll see Pollinator Garden in action. You'll do it. You'll learn how to start a pollinator garden. And hopefully we'll also see monarch butterflies. There will be flyers out front. And also check the Rewild social feeds for more information. I've learned so much in the past couple of years since starting East Hampton Compost, and I'm so grateful to the town board and the high school students and all the volunteers who are participating, because I've really come to understand what it means to have community come together and work together on a project like this that benefits our community and our environment. And I hope everyone joins me this Thursday. And the folks at Rewild, last week we had people from Perfect Earth Project and Dana Lester, Matthew's mom, and she was telling stories about Matthew and how he got interested in pollinator gardening. So I know you will too. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Gloria. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Thank you. Perfect. Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we do have someone on the line. Give me a moment and I'll unmute them. And let's cut over to you for a second. Caller ending 8764, you're on the air.
Good morning, Town Board. This is Dave Buddha. Last Thursday at the Town Board meeting, you adopted Resolution 1063 to authorize the survey meets and bounds description of property at 126 and 123 Gardner Avenue, sorry about that, and also a lot on 12th Street, I believe. The resolution that was adopted, and there was no discussion when it was adopted, simply states that the town board wishes to combine 3 existing lots into 2 lots for the purposes of development. I'm calling to ask you to please elucidate and enlighten me as to what is the nature of the development that is planned by the town board.
Yeah.
Ian can discuss it in his liaison report, David.
Later today, very good. Thank you. I'll be watching. I did want to, whenever I misspeak, I want to correct myself. I realized going back on Thursday, I stated that we, residents in the Springs, pay about 5 times more for school district tax rate than they do in the Wainscott Common School District. I want to correct that. The actual number is not 5 times. It's currently 4.57. That is the ratio between the most recent school tax rate for the Spring School District and compared to the school tax rate for the Wainscott School District, and that is even after they have substantially increased their school tax rate and budget the prior year by about 30%. Next, I'd like to comment on a speaker who spoke today, a woman concerning free pickleball courts in the town of East Hampton. I have to second her observation and evaluation of the courts at the Springs School. Actually, I guess that's the Springs Youth Association courts located at the Springs School District. I brought to the attention of the members of the board that the tie-down nets on 2 of the courts earlier in the season were broken and non-functional. Instead of repairing and replacing them, the Recreation Department and or the Buildings and Grounds Department merely removed them. As a result, at least 2 of the 3 courts, and I haven't played there in a while, at least 2 of the 3 courts have a net height of 42 inches, which is the standard for tennis, whereas the requirement for pickleball at the center of the court is 36 inches. So clearly, unless you like playing basketball with a 12-foot hoop height instead of 10-foot standard, it really makes the game less than pleasant and makes it much more difficult and certainly non-standardized play. So you've got courts, you spent a lot of money to prepare them, to resurface them for tennis and pickleball, you painted the lines, please fix the nets. Everyone that plays pickleball at the Springs Youth Association courts would appreciate it. I thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
We currently have no other callers on the line.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to our topics, and we have Jeannie Carrozza's up first. Welcome, Jeannie.
Hello. Just have a couple of bids today. The first is for the installation of the sanitation HVAC system. PJ Mechanical is the low apparent bidder for that one. The total cost being $266,000. Next is the Old Stone Highway culvert replacement and invasive species removal. Keith Grimes is the apparent low bidder for that. The total for that is $658,009.25. It's broken into 2 parts. $378,709.50 for the culvert and $279,299.75 for the Phragmites removal, the re-veg, and the shoreline restoration. And that's it. Great.
So when will they be on? Will they be?
They're on for resolution also for today.
Okay.
All right.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the Cove Hollow Outfall for East Hampton Town and Village. And Melissa Winslow, Ryan Winter, and Andrew Kelly. Welcome.
So,
Pardon me, sir, would you do me a favor? Could you move that, your presentation board of whatever that you're putting up? I can't see it from that camera angle. Actually, give me a second. Let me try to repin that. Let me try to repin that and see if I can get a good view on you. Sorry, I just want to make sure everyone at home can see.
you want to put it here next to, yeah. Or the camera would be seeing the sort of here and all board members. So, Madam Supervisor, if you don't mind, I'll just fill in a couple comments set up here. This has been a long anticipated discussion as far as a legacy drainage issue that the town of East Hampton's had. The outfall pipe has gone through multiple administrations here. This outfall pipe, many individuals might know, actually runs all the way from Route 114 all the way down to Cove Hollow and empties into I would call it Simmons Cove. There might be different names for it, but in Georgia Creek right now. Working along with Billy Hayjack in the village and other village trustee members, Friends of Georgia Pond, also the Natural Resources Department, part of the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee recommendations was multifaceted, starting with investigative reports of the piping all the way down to a settling area located at a very nice little spot that a lot of us actually have done kayaking in the past. So with that, it's been a pleasure to actually see the two municipalities work together on this project as far as the township and the village and also other non-for-profits, including Friends of Georgia Pond, to get to this point of a potential final design for discussion.
Great. Good morning. Thank you, David. So I'm Melissa Winslow from the Natural Resources Department at the town of East Hampton. I'm a principal environmental analyst, and I'm here today with Ryan Winter, a professional engineer, and Andrew Kelly, landscape architect from VHB, and they'll be presenting to the board final designs for the Cove Hollow Endopipe treatment constructed wetland project. VHB has been working with the town investigating the conditions of the pipe and remedial actions that could be taken to address the stormwater concerns since the first phase of this project, which started in 2019.
My apologies. Could we move that board back a little bit to closer to the audience? Because I cannot see the speaker.
We're getting back.
Oh, okay. From me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a
okay.
little better?
Yeah, it's much better. Thank you.
Okay, good. So the Cove Hollow stormwater pipe was designed and constructed in the 1930s as a drainage project to alleviate flooding from farmland runoff. The pipe currently runs 7,300 linear feet from the railroad trestle at the northern end of Cove Hollow Road near 114, down to the outlet at Georgica Cove, emptying into Georgica Pond. And as David had mentioned, multi-jurisdictional boundaries. Half of the pipe is within the township, town of East Hampton, and the other half is within the village of East Hampton boundaries. So the stormwater flowing to the pond represents a source of nutrients, sediment, and bacteria, among other roadside contaminants that can impact water quality. Georgica Pond historically suffers from macroalgae and blue-green algae blooms, which are fed by excess nitrogen and phosphorus loading to the pond. So that's what makes this project important in moving forward and trying to alleviate some of these issues. So due to these known impacts, this project was included in the Village of East Hampton's Water Quality Improvement Plan, which was incorporated within the town's CPF Water Quality Improvement Plan. The overall goals were to implement actions that would reduce the volume of stormwater flowing from the pipe and into Georgica Pond, as well as to improve the quality of the stormwater that enters Georgica Pond. Following a camera inspection and engineering review, one of the most impactful recommendations from the plan was to incorporate an end-of-pipe treatment solution to capture and treat stormwater exiting the pipe before entering Georgica Cove. The town issued an RFP in 2022 and hired VHB to design a constructed wetland to improve the quality of water entering the pond at this location. So this work has really been a collaboration with many different entities, stakeholders, the Village of East Hampton as the property owner, the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, Friends of Georgica Pond, and been working with the town trustees as well because they utilize this location for the aquatic harvester. So at this point, I'll hand it over to our team at VHB, who will review the final designs, planting plans, and provide an update on the current status of the project.
Wonderful. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, Town Board and Supervisor. Happy to be here. And at this point in this project, I've been on this project since the beginning, and it's exciting to see it get this far and so close to actually coming to fruition. The team has worked hard with, as Melissa mentioned, the town, the village, and Friends of Georgia Pond to really put together a great plan. So just to kind of take a step back a little bit and reiterate what Melissa was saying, this design came about based on a assessment that VHB had performed for the town back in 2020 to look at the issues that could be addressed by improving the infrastructure at the existing Cove Hollow drainage inlet. It's a 24-inch RCP pipe that had issues with both water quality and capacity. So our assessment looked at mitigation measures, both short-term and long-term, to improve the functionality of the culvert and also improve the water quality at the outfall. So as Melissa mentioned, this is one of the more impactful mitigation measures that we had come up with at Georgia Cove, Georgia Pond, to help mitigate some of the issues with the contamination of Georgia Cove. There was some land available prior to the outfall that we looked to utilize to create a BMP, best management practice for water quality within that space. As you'll see, that's the plan that we came up with to utilize that space, maximize the storage potential, and then create a outfall into Georgia Cove for larger storm events to not overwhelm the proposed improvement. So as mentioned, with our drainage assessment, we came up with a variety of mitigation measures. Some were located within the village, some were within the town. So it was a collaborative effort between the two municipalities to come up with these solutions. And we're hoping that this is the start of some additional improvements along that storm drain system to really improve the overall quality of the functionality of that system. Thanks. And now I'll turn it over to Andrew Kelly, landscape architect, who's been leading the design effort for the site.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, council members, town supervisor, thank you for having us today. Just to kind of refresh everyone of where we are, our site is located kind of in the red boundaries there, but just more so east of Georgia Pond and north of Georgia Cove on the south side of Georgia Road. And just kind of zooming in, it's this parcel here. It's just over an acre. Again, village-owned parcel at the end of Cove Hollow Road with the existing outfall that flows out into Georgia Cove there. The next slide. So the size it stands today is fairly undeveloped. There's an access road that kind of comes in off of Georgia Road. It's used throughout the day. People tend to kind of come in. Our side observations would come down to the end of the road, sit there, eat lunch, kind of just enjoy the view shed there. But the primary purpose of the site right now is, as Ryan mentioned, there's the existing 24-inch RCP pipe that you can see in kind of the middle right slide there that traverses the site from the north to the south and exits through the existing outfall to the cove. The site is also somewhat overtaken by Phragmites on kind of the southern edge of it. You can see in the top left photo and top right photo there, the existing stand of Phragmites, which we would look to address as part of our proposed improvements. And then lastly, the site does have a freshwater wetland on the bottom right image there, kind of shows a portion of the extent of that existing wetland. We tried to take a look at the existing topography in our designs and take that into account, and a majority of our proposed BMPs do kind of fit within that area. On the site plan here, you can kind of see the mapped out wetland here. This is kind of the extent of the existing wetland, so you can see the proposed BMPs that we've tried to kind of fit everything into that existing wetland area. So. So during the 2020 drainage assessment that Ryan discussed earlier, we took the opportunity at the end of that assessment to put together a initial high-level design concept for the parcel, which is pictured here. Again, this was prepared back in 2020. This took a very high-level look at what our thoughts were for the parcel. Again, very strong emphasis on the BMPs and the green infrastructure. This particular concept showed more of a meandering design through the parcel, while also looking to integrate some pedestrian passive use space and integration of a small parking area, an outlook, and some educational opportunities throughout the parcel. Next slide. So through the design process and, talking with all the stakeholders, the town, the village, Friends of Georgia Cove, we've kind of, through schematic design development phases, we went through and tried to refine the design more with them. We took a look at varying options, which you can see here. This isn't all of them, but this is just some of them, some more of the key ones where we looked at some parking options, some turnaround options, water access, again, some passive pedestrian use spaces. And then, through final integration and discussions with all the stakeholders, we've arrived at more of a simplistic design. Ryan, you can go to the next slide, please. That really focuses more so just on the BMP elements and that existing access road to provide access down to the cove. So I'm just going to kind of point to the board here. It's a little bit easier for me, sorry. So again, our current design right now proposes to refine the existing access road. We look to integrate some pavement edge restraint in terms of flush curb just to kind of solidify that roadway. Right now there's some erosion and some breaking of the sides of the roadway, so we wanted to incorporate that. It more or less stays in the existing footprint of the existing roadway. We just kind of straightened the alignment. At the end of the roadway, there is a small access path down to the water's edge for kayak launching, maintenance launching for the town, the village, and any other small, very small watercraft launching at the end of the roadway. On the east side is really kind of the main focus of the project, which again, as we mentioned, is the BMP structures that again kind of sit more or less in the same footprint of the existing wetland area. All right, should we go to the next slide? So in terms of the stormwater and landscape improvements, so the stormwater improvements consist of a couple of things. Primarily, the biggest thing is the daylighting of the existing Cove Hollow Road pipe at the north side of the site. I'm just going to flip this page here.
For the general public, daylighting is?
Taking the pipe and opening it up to the BMP structure itself so that the water can flow freely out of a pipe through typically a bioswale or rain garden and thing of that nature. So the existing pipe, the existing 24-inch pipe comes down Cove Hollow Road into there's an existing structure here before it makes the turn down to Georgia Cove. We are proposing to kind of turn that pipe and spear it off into our BMP structures. Or systems, I should say, starting with a sediment forebay or plunge pool here in the beginning. The purpose of this is to again, slow the drainage, allow for larger solids to sort themselves out. We are proposing a dam structure here with clay material to, again, kind of hold that first flush in this area. That would then overflow to our first cell, which is one of our shallow constructed wetland areas. Again, this would allow water to pool and kind of work its way south to our secondary structure, which is a weir gabion stone wheel structure. Again, helping to slow, infiltrate, and filter the stormwater as it comes through these systems. Our last cell here is, again, another shallow wetland or micro pool. It is the last kind of cell and infiltration area before the water exits out through our control device to the outfall. So overall, that existing system is designed to treat the initial 1.5-inch storm. So that's been designed and sized for that. The one key component, obviously, and to provide a resilient design, we do have an overflow built in. So if there's anything over 1.5 inches, as we all saw Sunday into Monday, we've been getting more than 1.5 inches lately. So the overflow actually pretty much follows the same route as the existing pipe. However, it will be upsized to a 30-inch elliptical pipe. The existing 24-inch pipe currently has some coverage issues. There's some damage closer towards the outfall. So we're proposing an elliptical pipe to get some more coverage and also increase it for the size of the overflow. In terms of the actual outfall into Georgia Cove, we are proposing to replace the existing structure that's there today. As you saw in some of the pictures throughout our presentation earlier, the conditions of it are deteriorating. You can start to see a lot of the aggregate be exposed, and there's actually some undermining of the structure, so we are proposing to replace that structure. Next slide. So in terms of landscape improvements, we do have a native wetland upland buffer, so any of the areas above our high water line of the BMP systems, we are considering buffer area, so they will be native and adaptive plant species to provide a buffer space from the high water line and outside of our actual physical BMP structures. The BMP systems themselves are, again, native plant species. They'll be high and low marsh areas. That's how we've kind of delineated. So the bottom of the systems will be that lower marsh, the higher marsh will be the areas above that from high water line down. The plant species in there are capable of taking varying degrees of inundation from the storm events, and obviously will aid in filtering and slowing and infiltrating the stormwater. We also have proposed areas of limited maintenance turf. Those would be areas kind of like around the roadway. They are native turf fescue species that can either be mowed or left to kind of grow natural. Typically they'll get around ankle height, they fall over, they look kind of very natural and organic, or they can be mowed and maintained. In talking with the stakeholders, we did want to be able to provide some vehicular pull-off on the side of the road, which you can kind of see in those orange areas on the slide there. So if there was anyone that wanted to kind of pull off the road, they would be able to do so in those turf areas. The other big component is the Phragmites removal down towards the southern half of the site. Right around in this area here, all on the south side of the site. So we are proposing a excavation method to remove that. In our experience, and in talking with the town, the village, and the stakeholders, that does still seem to be the most successful way of removing the Phragmites. And we will also look to integrate a root barrier installation around the perimeter to try to help any of the Phragmites outside our parcel coming back in. And just lastly, obviously our plant palette selection, we did, I'm not going to go into detail of all the species and stuff, but we did talk obviously at length with all the stakeholders involved, the town, Friends of Georgia Cove, and the village to kind of, develop that plant palette based on their local knowledge and the right plant species for the area.
Thanks, Andrew. So where are we now with the design and the permitting for this? Currently, we made an initial submission to both the Army Corps of Engineers and the New York State DEC. We have received comments back from both. We have revised the plans in accordance with their comments, and we are preparing to make a submission back to them within the next week. So we do anticipate potentially one more round of comments, especially with the DEC. There were some comments regarding Phragmites removal and retaining of the existing outfall, which we had some concerns with that we're pushing back on. So just there may be a little bit more back and forth with those, but otherwise all the comments have been addressed. And then next steps, once we get those comments back, the plans will be advanced to construction documents, which will include specifications and further detail on the cost estimate and the grading and the material spec'd out for the improvements. There's also we spec'd out in the project a post project water quality analysis, which would be done to assess the impacts of the improvements. And we did not do a pre-construction analysis of the water quality because there is sufficient data that's already been collected in this location that we're utilizing as our base, and we will compare the new data to that existing information. And then finally, coming up with a monitoring and adaptive management plan. This is something the town has stressed they are interested in. It's also something that the DEC and the Army Corps are likely going to require as well. So once we get more specifics on that from the DEC and we understand the town's needs, we will put that together and come up with a plan that works for everybody. And then getting into the opinion of probable cost, again, this is based on the plans as they are to date, subject to change. I know that's hard to read. The number at the bottom, which is the most interest, is 2.1 million for the entire project. That's includes any excavation, plantings, fragmity removal, and restoration, and all the drainage improvements along the site. New outfall, a new outfall interior to the site into the BMP, and then all the stonework associated with shoring up the areas adjacent to those locations. And then Andrew will wrap it up just to touch on a little more of the maintenance and monitoring.
Thank you. So in terms of maintenance and monitoring right now, we're just going to kind of give some recommendations. As Ryan mentioned, we are still going through the permitting process. In our experience, the DEC and Army Corps does kind of drive what that monitoring and maintenance plan looks like at the end of the day. So just, again, our recommendations are here today, but they are likely to change based on the final permit conditions that we receive from the DEC. So, and we're going to kind of speak just more primarily to the Phragmites monitoring and removal, because that's kind of the key aspect here and has the potential to really, unfortunately, take back over again. So we really want to kind of drive home the monitoring practices for the Phragmites removal. So once our excavation is complete, Phragmites can grow back rather quickly. It can be back within a few years. So again, stressing that monitoring management is very important here. We would really recommend annual maintenance being essential to remove those pioneer colonies of any kind of Phragmites regrowth. As Ryan mentioned, we are scoped to do a site-specific management plan for the Cove Hollow site itself. It will be inclusive of the Phragmites monitoring management, as well as monitoring and management for the BMP areas themselves to help maintain and eliminate any invasive weed growth and species returning to the area. One of the some of the methods that we would likely recommend, herbicide spot treatments for the Phragmites, and simply just hand removal or weed whipping of any regrowth, getting it right in the bud, just pulling it right out. Mowing would be in there, but again, only if there's kind of significant areas of regrowth. We really wouldn't want to recommend that. We'd want to try to prevent any large areas from returning through some of the hand removal processes. And then any replacement of the proposed native plant species as needed. Again, the idea here is to keep the Phragmites out and let these native species thrive and kind of take over the area. And ultimately, if we can do that, they will help prevent the Phragmites regrowth. So again, the establishment of those native species is key. We'd also recommend through the monitoring that if there are some areas that are lacking establishment, there are some seeding practices that could be established to help build up that establishment of the native species. In terms of monitoring, at a minimum, we'd recommend annually during the growing season for the Phragmites, which is typically the May-June timeframe, again, to monitor that. But again, that timeline is going to be more than likely determined by the DEC and their permit conditions for that removal. In terms of the BMPs, it's a similar process, monitoring and maintenance to identify any invasive weed species and growth that may be coming back, and then the removal of those species. We would recommend at a minimum that upfront maintenance and monitoring to last for the first 3 to 4 growing seasons at a minimum. Again, really which would help to allow those native species to establish and thrive. Ryan, you can go to the next slide. So just kind of driving home, these are just some project examples here of a smaller BMP system that was recently completed on one of our projects. Kind of the left photo is installation, and the to right are just about a year after installation, and just kind of driving home what these systems can look like with the proper maintenance, monitoring, and species selection. The top image is obviously more in the springtime, and the bottom in the fall time. So there is both spring and winter interest. And then obviously the stormwater quality component is a big one as well. So we just wanted to kind of present that to the board. I'll open up to any questions.
Board members have questions?
I have a few questions to kick us off. The proposed stormwater capacity is 1.5 inches of rain per hour. Is that what you said?
1.5-inch rain event, so for the event itself, and that would just be the initial treatment capacity, and then anything over that would be handled by the overflow.
So the overflow would act as the pipe that's there now and just take it straight into the pond again?
So the existing pipe that comes down Cove Hollow would come into a proposed structure that we have just on the north side of the site. That proposed structure would have 2 outlet inverts at it. One would be at the lower elevation, would allow the water, that first 1.5 inch capacity, to come into our BMP system. The overflow would be set slightly higher than that within that structure, and that's our newly proposed 30-inch elliptical pipe that would carry any of the overflow should that structure hit that elevation during a significant event, to be able to carry it and bypass it so we don't inundate these areas above their capacity.
Do we have the ability to turn off the pipe, should we wish?
Currently, that is not proposed in the design to turn it off, no.
And what do we expect during a major storm event, do we have an idea of what flow we would be seeing going into the pond from this pipe?
So we did do a full stormwater report that did all the water modeling for this. So we can provide that information. Off the top of my head, I don't have that number or statistics with me, but we did do a full stormwater quality report that looks at that entire watershed, the contributing watershed. I believe at the end of the day, it did summarize that we were reducing velocity through the area based on the daylighting methods. But we can provide that to the board.
Yeah, I mean, one of my concerns is that not precisely at this location, but, Georgia Pond as a whole, if you go up to where 27 is, that is considered by our slush maps to be an area that's kind of prone to flooding. It's also a major artery out of the town. Not having the ability to shut off the flow of this pipe going into that water body in the event of a major rainstorm, which could potentially exacerbate the flooding in that location. It's just something I'd want to consider if it's not a crazy additional cost to have that ability to shut the pipe down.
But then we would also have to consider the impacts of not having drainage. If we turn off the drainage going up 114.
So where's this drain? That was going to be my next question. Where is this draining from? What does it look like if the water is sitting in that location for, say, a day or two?
So this drains actually all the way from the old dairy barn that was at Riverhead Building Supply at the train trestle there. There's actually there's a state sump that is directly across the street from there. And this is actually built in the 1930s to collect all farmland runoff from the area that goes from the Demonicki farm a little bit to the south there, collecting from where Court, right? I think it's Cordy Court south. And all that water rushes into here. And 1930s, what they did for legacy drainage, they just got it away from the area where there was a problem and they put it to water. What happened now, if you put a stop on that amount of water that floods down there, we've done this at Stephen Hand's Path, you see in the sump there, it'll back out and flush right back out of there into people's yards. So I think what we're trying to do here, my opinion, excuse me, I'm just explaining it, I'll let the engineers go next, is we're trying to encapsulate as much as we can into best management practices to actually filter the water before it hits the headwaters of Georgia Pond. That's an 1.5 inch rain event. It's better than what we're doing now, because right now it's just all flooding right into the pond without any type of treatment, any type of stopping on it. So it's a potential stop. The second part about this is looking at the global look. Globally, we're also preparing to do another project in the area of the Route 27 rest stop over there, a very large project that we've discussed in the past. That will also filter that water out there then too. The state recently has been replacing all their drainage structures, also at the request of the town, Friends of Georgia Pond and others then too, because those structures become inadequate. So there's a lot of intermunicipal work going on here right now, thanks to Fred Thiel and others, to be able to encapsulate as much water as we can, to be able to filter, but also not stagnantly hold. So I don't know if stopping the pipe here would be either effective or prudent in a way.
No, I appreciate that. Would we have that capability, yes or no? I mean, I think the management of that specific part of the highway is something we need to partner with the state on. There might be other means by which we can address that threat to the artery. But just knowing what this pipe might potentially add to it would be kind of an interesting thing. So if you are working on that storm flow data, just to give us an idea of the volume, I think that would be helpful. And this is a gravity.
I don't think Kate was done with her
I apologize,
question.
Kate. I'm
If
so
you don't
sorry.
mind.
Sorry.
No, I just have a couple more things, but why don't you go ahead and then I'll go back.
You sure? Okay, sorry. This is a gravity-fed pipe entirely, correct? Okay, good. That was the other thing. The pipe itself, I understand the existing pipe was there since 1930s. Has that required much maintenance over the last few years or no? Like in terms of blockages, et cetera?
We did a camera inspection back in 2019, and there were actually certain joints where there was roots growing into the pipe. There were actually utilities that were punched right through the pipe, still functioning, but we did have that cleaned out. There was one catch basin that was damaged that was actually on Route 27, and they tried to fill it actually with pea gravel, the space around the catch basin, and it actually flowed right into the pipe. But we were able to see that on the camera and get that fixed. So that was part of the first assessment, was to assess the condition, and actually, given its age, was deemed to be in actually working order and in good condition. So some of these recommendations that VHB made during that assessment moving forward are being implemented. We actually contacted the utilities and had the utilities removed that were damaging the pipe. So that's part of the project moving forward.
And that falls on the town, that responsibility, that maintenance aspect, correct?
It's been in partnership with the village, so we have, our half of the pipe, so we've been working together on those recommendations.
And the state too, because that drainage
and New York
cylinder
State.
was damaged or tried to be repaired by the state, so they've been working well with the town on it.
One point I just wanted to make was, in terms of water quality, that 1.5 inch rainstorm, what we're really aiming to do with some of these remedial actions is to capture the first flush, where that can contain up to 80% or more of the contaminants from that event. So if we can treat that and, at least we're capturing the contaminants in the BMP, and then other recommendations that were in the plan are to upgrade or, further north along the catchment to implement some other bioswales and other actions that can reduce the flow of water that's going to get to the end of the pipe. So that will be coming later. But this was the highest impact recommendation.
So that's really important information for me to know, because when you hear just isolated 1.5 inches of rain, and we know what's happening everywhere, that's not a common event in any shape. But I think also David explaining that, and for us to realize that this is part of a system of natural bioswales and alternatives to the way we used to do things, which was to dump it in the water, but to create all of these natural systems to take the pollutants out. And that's going further up into the entire system rather than looking at it as a singular, is also, I'm glad we articulated that, and it's important for me as well. I lived up across from the farm fields off of Harness on Towie. That was Harness, that's why I wouldn't say Cordy's way up, but Harness was impassable, and everyone's house flooded during any kind of rain event when everything came off of the field. So the improvements at Stephen Hent's Path, which I never thought I would see in my lifetime, and the impact that driving up there now has, and the good stuff that happens with that is really a big change. So that is a great a comfort to me, that we're not just looking at 1.5 inches and that's it. The asphalt road, is asphalt the surface, the proposed access road, 18-inch width, is asphalt our best surfacing product in this area?
So we did explore other roadway treatments. There's a variety of surfaces you could use. They have green infrastructure type products, but there's additional maintenance involved with them. And then speaking with the village, their preference was to maintain something that was basically, they wanted to keep the road as much as we could, given the new topography and improvements that we were proposing. So that was part of the back and forth we had with the other stakeholders to come up with those materials.
And the access road is used for maintenance?
For maintenance and for access to the ramp, for people to have lunch or
And can an ambulance get down that there then, if there's people down there
Yes,
in
yeah.
that width?
Yes.
Okay, and I think I have, and of course, the excavation method that you're talking about, when you're talking about excavating the Phragmites, of course, that's trustee permit as well. I didn't see the trustee permit mentioned in that. I believe that would be a trustee permit needed. Melissa, am I correct about that?
I believe so. It depends on how close into Georgia Pond we get, if it's in the upland or, within the water body.
And just also, just to round out public information, the why it's important to excavate and remove the Phragmites, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is because the Phragmites will take out everything that you're putting in, and all of these species that were selected to attenuate floodwaters, soaking up type species will be gone.
Right. Yeah, so Phragmites is very aggressive. The rhizomes can come in, if we leave one, it can keep growing into our bioswale and into the constructed wetlands. So we really want to protect that and put up those barriers and, get rid of the stand that's immediately adjacent to the project.
Yeah, they're not great flood soakers. They don't soak up much. No. Those were my questions. Great. Tom, did you have other questions?
Yes, so with the maintenance plan of the park area, or where it comes, the outlet areas, is that again shared between the different municipalities, or is that because it's on village land, that's the village responsibility?
Typically for our projects, included in the construction for the first 3 to 5 years, we include the maintenance and operations to make sure that the project gets established. And then beyond that, it would be the property owner. So we have been working with the village, and that the concerns about the ongoing maintenance was some of the reasons why we removed some of the added improvements to for accessibility and parking and things like that. What they wanted to kind of keep it as is, keep the beauty of the site, but also have the water quality improvement component added.
Yeah, that's one of my, looking at slide 13, I kind of look at it and I'm like, oh, great, they got ADA paths, potentially ADA parking here. So it becomes a location that people can use recreationally. With the design with the access road here, I'm not seeing that quite as much. So it's seemingly a change in nature here. This is not something we're really considering as much of a recreational opportunity for residents. It's more specifically to water management.
Correct. That's the end of the line in our coordination with the different stakeholders. It was, we want to really focus, as this is a water quality improvement project, to just focus on that aspect of it.
And currently you can only park a few cars there. I mean, I've been known to go down there and have my, lunch or coffee there. It's a beautiful site. And it's only a couple of cars.
Right.
So the original design was kind of not in keeping, from my perspective, with all of that parking.
The same character of the site, I think, was important for the
Will there
village
be
to
specific ADA parking there?
I
with the current
don't believe so, as is. No.
I would like to see that change personally. I would like to see some 1 to 2 spots for ADA access parking.
Folks don't, the way it's used.
There's no facility there.
Folks don't get out of their car there. It's really, unless
Park
you're
and view.
launching there,
Yeah.
but typically you go there, it's just to zone out and have your lunch. It's kind of like going to Landing Lane or, another road end. It's really just a road end that people.
There's no facility there, so I don't know if there would be a nexus to adding ADA spots, or if there's no facility, because that's what designates ADA spots. You have to have a facility to go to, personally. But go ahead, sorry, Tom.
No, that's fine. I think that's everything I had on my questions. Thank you.
So I've sat in on these meetings. I didn't recognize it's been this long. Adding COVID on there then too. I appreciate Melissa and Kim, and then also VHB for hearing from the municipalities, different ones, the different entities on there, to sort of try to scale it back to how I always remembered it 40 years ago, and not getting into something new that in the end, some of the neighbors might not like. People enjoy that area because it is a little bit quieter than too, instead of refined in a way. But now it's going to be refined in a way that we're going to see benefits from a water quality aspect, which I think is the impetus for this entire project on there. I think you've hit on a lot of my concerns about long-term maintenance. I know you've heard that from others also, and too. Maintenance more specifically that might be included would be for plantings. one or twice a year, the long-term maintenance is going to go onto the village, either for the roadway or the cutting there then too. And that's how typically some of our maintenance schedules have been. I think this is exactly where we should try to land right now. As far as the town aspect of the project, the village is supportive of this design on there. And I think the next step is trying to find out when can we install it, but not also be get a construction scheduling and protocols in place that is not detrimental to the neighbors. You don't necessarily want to be doing this during summer, obviously, then too. But you also want to be able to get everything to plant and root in at the same time then too. But overall, I appreciate that back and forth that both the village and the town has. I know we brought in a trustee minority at one time. Billy Hajak was on there, and the village had discussed this also. And working with Sarah and yourself also, it's been helpful and collaborative on there then too. So I'm appreciating, I support where this is going.
Yeah, and I think we've learned over time, building in maintenance into the project when we go out for bid is just wise.
Yeah. We want to keep our projects successful going into the future.
Yeah, and you know how I feel. Sorry,
Well established.
I think your description of when you put the camera down the pipe, of it being totally messed up and dug into by utilities makes the case for putting in the maintenance plan.
Yeah, and even the design or the riprap or whatever it might be right at that initial outfall and the plunge pool is important. We see that Stephen Ann's path so it doesn't blow it out. There's other situations where we've seen blowouts and recently then too. So the design overall, takes care of the blowout, potential blowout, the filtration, and the aesthetics too. Because let's be honest, once this establishes itself, people are going to more look at it aesthetically than actually maybe functionally. But we look at it as a functionally as engineers and as legislators. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I have nothing to add. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming back and giving us an update, and hopefully things go smoothly with the DEC and the Army Corps, and we can get this out to bid.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were able to have pre-meetings with the permitting agencies, which I think was really helpful because we
Always
get that
helpful.
information up front and kind of makes it easier on the back end.
Great process to do that, Melissa.
Okay, thank you so
The
much.
trustees are aware of this project.
Okay, good.
Them too. I was remiss before not.
Good.
But so we haven't heard from them that a permit is required, but we will.
Thanks so much.
Beautiful. Okay, so next up, we have the Montauk Playhouse Community Center project update with James Pincott. Welcome, James.
Morning.
Good morning. Oh, afternoon.
Afternoon, yes. Good afternoon. I'm James Pincott. I'm the Capital Projects Manager for the town of East Hampton, and today I will be presenting the Montauk Playhouse expansion, which is the construction of the aquatic center on the first floor and also a second floor cultural and multi-purpose center. Good. Allow me to my
Sure,
PowerPoint.
if you want to do it from there, that's great.
Thank you.
Not yet.
If you hit the share screen on Zoom, we should be good to go from there. Right on. There you go. And hit up your presentation.
The Montauk Playhouse Community Center project.
Oh, it ain't there yet, bud. I think you hit the wrong screen. So stop the share. I'll stop it for you. Hit share one more time. It's going to give you an option of one screen or the other, and you can go and choose that.
There we go.
Perfect.
And can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Right on.
The Montauk Playhouse Community Center project update. As you can see here in this image, this is the renderings from the actual the groundbreaking of the lap pool and also the rehabilitation pool as well. So the Town of East Hampton and the Montauk Playhouse Community Center Foundation have worked closely together on this public-private partnership for this project to come to fruition. The project includes this 25-yard, 4-lane lap fitness pool and a smaller 32 by 33 therapy pool. So the first floor and multi-purpose cultural center on the second floor, which will serve as a versatile place for things such as lectures, meetings, conferences, and other events as such. The total project costs, which include construction, project administration, and the management, are approximately $16.1 million. Funding for this project is a combination of the town's funds, New York State grants, and also funds and generous donations from the Montauk Playhouse Community Center Foundation. So the construction team and the timeline, we have the Island Structures Engineering was selected as the contractor for the engineering contractor for the project's management. Scott DiBeradeno is the lead on from that contact. The selected general contractor is Crossroads Construction, and construction actually began in April 2024, only 4.5 months ago, which for me seems like a year ago. But construction is estimated to be completed within 14 months, so that would put us at June 2025. And I provided these slides here because this was right there at the beginning of construction in April 2024. I wanted to show the vastness of the space prior to construction, just to get an idea, because as my slides continue, you'll get to see how the project commenced and the different portions of it. I only wish that I actually included more slides. This rendering here, I like it because it's a layered rendering to kind of show you what my slides will also provide. So this is the second floor, and you can see the event spaces here in the center. This area is directly above the pool, as you can see on the layered side here. This is the end of the lap pool that is in an open atrium that slides down. There's actually a glass panel in the roof that is over top of that section to provide daylight into the area. It's just going to be a beautiful image.
We just did a change order, right, David, for the doors within the
Correct. Sure.
multicultural room?
That is correct. So I think change order number 5 or 6 was actually looking at the partition doors on the second floor.
Here.
Initially, what ended up happening was that we did not know if we were going to have the funding to do the second floor, but through the economy of scale, we were able to proceed forward with the second floor. When looking at the partitions and discussions with the Montauk Playhouse Foundation and our construction team, and then James Pincott and his team, it was determined that it would be best to actually motorize these partitions than to manually move them because of their weight. That necessitated a change order for some steel I-beams, some electrical work, and motorization. But the town board, the Playhouse Committee, and others, we determined it would be best for the long-term viability of the Playhouse and the users to have a motorized partition boards instead of actually having individuals trying to move these heavy ones on there. I think it reminds me when they maybe initially put them in the high school 30 or 35 years ago. I don't think they were actually motorized. Now they're motorized. Yeah. It's just going to make the setup and breakdown of this facility, the flexibility better. And that came at a cost, and I think it's an appropriate decision to make. So sorry if that answers your
Yeah, it does.
question.
Thank you.
Each one of those panels weighs about 800 pounds.
Real? Wow.
And that has to do with the STC rating, which is a sound transmittable class. And in order to get the number that we needed to have one event, say an event area A, not impede or impact the event area B, we had to have that rating, which makes the panels heavier. So, but yes, of course, if we were to go back and retrofit this, it would cost at least three times as much. So the time to do it would have been now, and is. So, but those are the petitions there. And you can see this is our west lobby is down at the bottom of this image. And that's where general admittance would be. We'd be coming through that area. Okay. I broke this down just to kind of give a little bit, it has the labels in there to show you, what is what there. And you can see we have off on our north side, there's a warming kitchen. There will be women's restroom, men's restroom, the stairwell, and then also the admin office. There is a lounge area here on the second floor as well. You'll see the elevator is in this sort of northwest area, but there's also our existing elevator on the opposite side by the south entrance. That image that I just showed you, looking from the north doorway, this is the same aspect that I took this picture from. So what we're looking at here is all of the shoring and forming necessary to pour that monolithic concrete pour that is the second floor above the pool area. This image is of the second floor from the southeast corner looking out. This, what you see here, is the forming prior to the rebar grid being installed, and you get to see a little bit, I apologize for my pictures not being as clear as I'd like them to be, but you will see a little bit of the structural steel and what would be concrete beam that is coming across. So this is an intricate web, basically, of rebar that's tied together that's going to act with the concrete sort of like a suspension bridge. It's going to be able to take that strength.
Can we just stay on this? What I didn't recognize was going to happen here is the light well here.
Yeah.
The light well, as the light that's currently already built into the facility when it used to be a tennis facility 100 years ago. The light that actually is going to shine down into the pool and in here is very dramatic on there, and the way that the use of glass to use natural light to enter the facility, I think it's going to be holistic to the feeling that's there. And it works actually very well so far too.
Would you mind if I went back to actually show that in the rendering as well?
Sure.
This is the area here where the glass is. I was basically standing here in this corner, taking the picture out this way. So this is where that glass is overhanging. It's going to be beautiful. And also from the meeting area of the second floor, this is glass that you can see down into this area as well. So each one of these shorings is what's holding up the forms that has the concrete pour above it. So this is what it looks like. Again, I was off to the left of the screen here on this first image when I took that initial picture. This is that structural steel rebar that's going to become this beam, one of 7 that span this room that provide the strength for this whole floor. Well, in addition to the area where this gentleman's standing, this is all the rebar grid that sits above the plywood here, which is a specialized plywood that's going to provide for a very smooth surface once they remove the forms. And you can see also the electrical conduits that have been brought up to stub up and be prepared for that space when it's all done. So this is a 7-inch concrete pour here. And these beams are all going to be filled with concrete as well. Well, they are already. They're all filled with concrete currently. So. Looking at this floor plan here, you can see, again, this is the area where I took the image from. These are the locations of the spans of each one of those. These are the piers that the beams land on going across. And again, basically from the same location as the other photos, this is the completed monolithic concrete pour prior to the polishing. And then they come back with basically the polishing machines. They look like giant rotary fans, and they go across it with that, and it gives a nice smooth surface.
James, if you could find out, because I know that the entire Montauk Playhouse is 50,000 square feet, and I think each side is 25,000-ish.
Correct.
Don't know if the second floor, this is the second floor we're looking at now.
Yes.
I'd love to know what the square footage is. I'm sure it's probably a little bit less than 12,000 square feet, but that would be.
I'll get you both.
Good number to know.
Yeah, the dimensions of this area is directly above the pool, but you also have the outlying areas as well that become like the meeting area, the gallery,
like a lounge area, kitchen. Right?
Yes. So I can actually separate it out and give you both.
Great.
Absolutely. So this is what it looks like when they're polishing the concrete surface, and you can see just with the light here, you know how smooth and everything's built upon this, so it has to be pretty much perfect. So this is a progression of the concrete pour over the pool room. So this is actually on the southwest corner of the space. This bottom area, this is the entrance that comes into the RPZ room, which is out of sight in this image. But the space right here is going to be the new pool equipment room. And then looking down again from it when they have all the forming in to pour that concrete. And then again afterwards, very similar to the pour the second floor on the other side.
So they poured both the first and second floor on the same day? Or they did it?
This here was done prior to.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know when we were in Montauk, right, that was the day of the big pour?
That's right. So
correct, Tuesday.
So the most critical pathway forward in this project was the complete pour of the monolithic second floor. It was nearly 25 trucks of 200, maybe 250 cubic yards of concrete that was poured on there that has to be able to cure all at the same time. So it was a conveyor of delivery trucks on a schedule, and then poured, and then also polished, put in place by a very capable team of artisans, if you want to say there. So part of the reason when we see this now, and I know I was talking to the supervisor about this, I'm quite astonished how transformative the second floor now you could see to how the building can be used in the future. And mostly, it's also just stating that this board, Ian and Tom, you guys both all know this also, and then the Playhouse, having the second floor done at this time was such a cost savings in the end, because everyone would want it done anyway later on. So
Absolutely.
The decisions that the town board made at the time here was completely, in my humble opinion, appropriate. And I'm glad we were able to find the funding within the community and the town to be able to do it. Because very shortly, you're gonna have a space there that Montauk's gonna be very proud of.
I'm sorry, my image don't do it justice.
It does
You're
not.
standing there and
I'm
you're
sorry.
looking.
Excuse me, I'm not saying.
No, I understand.
Nice try, James, but no, you're right. It doesn't.
They just don't do it.
Do better
justice.
next time.
Exactly. You have to be standing there.
Yeah, and when you add in the architectural aspects of the Carl Fisher building with the trusses, the old steel trusses that have a lot of riveting to it, very similar to what's in the gymnasium side of it also. Right. Those are going to be exposed. So you have that blending of the National Historical Register designated building of a Carl Fisher building within a modern use. And too, I think it's been designed very well.
I actually had this question quite often when people are saying, "Oh, I thought you guys were going to build the pool on the inside, not on the outside." But this work here, the site work that a lot of people see as they drive by, is actually it's going to be additional parking, and that additional parking is over the extra sanitary that was required for the building, and also for overflow for the pool as well.
And which is an IA sanitary system also.
Correct, an IA sanitary. It has to be, yes.
James, do you know how roughly how many parking spots we'll be adding with this?
I do not. I don't want to give you misinformation, so I'll find that out for you. I know that it was zoned appropriately for the capacity. So,
and then the other discussion you and I kind of had offline with this one is, I understand the existing generator for this building is pretty old.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of being able to use these spaces in the event of a power outage, are we kind of exploring new generator kind of facilities? Because I mean, even with the new HVAC system we've put into the existing structure, I'm not sure if our generator has the capability to operate that too. So is there any movement in that area as well?
Yeah, but I would like to work actually with Sam Klein to explore some grant possibilities for future for a new generator.
Great.
So yes,
I
well,
think
I wouldn't
the
say
generator
remove
that's
that
there
one, but-
was a donation from
Correct.
East Hampton Village when we first got on the board.
Yeah. Okay, so looking forward, I kind of did a little 2-week look ahead here to see what's expected next, but there is a little bit of news even since I made this PowerPoint last week, is that we did receive back when they deliver concrete for the monolithic pour, they take samples off of the trucks and they put them in cylinders. So what they do is they have a 3-day cylinder break and a 7-day cylinder break. So they let the concrete cure in the cylinder for 3 days, and then they break it in a machine of testing. It's actually a Suffolk testing that does it, or all-line testing, sorry. Whatever the PSI is to break the concrete, it determines its strength. So concrete strength testing, we're looking for 3,000 PSI or better. We got better on the 3-day break, so that's a good news. We'll wait for today would be the 7-day break because we're 7 days into it. So we'll find out what that pressure is, but I'm believing if it's over 3,000 already for the 3-day break, it should be higher than what we need overall. So.
And some of that extra testing was additional costs that the town board thought was prudent to make sure we had done.
Absolutely.
So knowing it was a large project, we wanted to make sure some of these milestones and these critical pathways were done. So there were some extra costs put into to make sure that the project ran successful too.
Correct. And as you said before, this piece, this monolithic pour is probably the most important part on the critical path for this project overall. So now that if we achieve, 3,000 plus, which we did, we can start removal of some of the form work as unnecessary shoring members can be removed and reshoring occurs. The layout of the partitions and walls is commencing currently. That's basically going up, measuring everything out, marking it out, and getting ready to actually start framing those. Construction of the partition walls, top and bottom tracks is commencing. And the beginning of the utility layout and core drilling of concrete slab for bathroom and warming kitchen. Will be your plumbing, electrical, mechanical, and such. I've included this slide for additional information. I guess at home they can scan the QR codes, and I'll leave that up for a minute. And that's all I have for my presentation.
Great job.
Does anyone have any comments or questions for James?
Looks like it's going quite well, James.
It is, and as I said before, 4.5 months, and it feels like it's been much longer. I've been there almost every day, and I can see the progress. It's a little bit different, I think, from the outside. So I believe that the second floor is that step that kind of shows something's really happening here. So. And now from here on out, it's just going to get, more and more, you just see it happening when they start doing the framing and you can see the individual rooms and spaces. It'll actually start to come to life. So.
James also participates in bi-weekly, and I participate construction meetings with all the primes also. So the coordinated efforts of ISC and others right now is really keeping this on a tight time frame right now. So we'll continue to update the board if there's any changes to that, any potential upcoming change orders out there, but we don't necessarily. Well,
yeah, exactly.
That right now.
I didn't even want to ask about completion date because I'd
like to stick with that. Quickly. I'd like to stick with the June.
Yeah, that's
2025. Let's just say we're on track.
Yes, which is quite amazing for the amount of work that they're trying to do and put it into a building that's 100 years old.
Yeah,
and it is again. It's the effort of everybody cooperating and working together there. It's a good team. So,
love teamwork.
Great. Thanks, James. Okay, so the last topic we have is the Renewable Energy Roadmap with Samantha Klein, our intergovernmental relations coordinator.
May I just set the table on why we're coming back with this? So Sam walks up to the podium. I just wanted to remind the public and my board members that this was actually a presentation from last December that was presented to the former board on the recommendations of the energy roadmap because it's quite a dense document. And just to remind everyone, this is the next steps in East Hampton Town's energy roadmap future and how we get to 100%. This was work done by Kim Shaw, Sam Klein in the Natural Resources Department, consultants and members who spent a lot of full-time volunteer members of the Energy Sustainability Committee, particularly Craig Van Sickle, Paul Muniz, and Lena Tambori, who, and along with myself as a liaison, stepped through this roadmap. But we have, in order to adopt the roadmap, we are required to hold 2 public hearings. We held the first public hearing looking for comments from the public, and we will soon notice for our second public hearing. But I wanted to just bring, the supervisor wanted to bring this back in front of the public and the board just to go through the recommendations of the roadmap because it is such an incredibly dense document. Take it away, Sam.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Yep, so as Kate said, I'm here to give a refresher on the roadmap. So the town board with the Energy Sustainability Committee a few years ago developed a goal to meet our community-wide energy consumption with renewable energy with a target date of 2030. So the renewable energy roadmap is meant to serve as a blueprint that takes you from a vision to that goal and breaks down what projects, policies, and codes can bring us to that goal.
And we went through quite a number of scenarios of every type of renewable energy system, and walked through the pros and cons, and some, like all things, not one size doesn't fit all, and what our needs are in particular to the town of East Hampton, and what paths forward in renewable energy will get us the most bang for the buck and get us to that 2030 aspirational target.
Right. Yeah, and to just mention some past planning efforts of the town too, whenever we're talking about thoughtful, solution-oriented planning around climate action, there are really 2 tracks that need to be pursued in tandem. So one of them being climate mitigation, which focuses on slowing the pace of climate change and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, as well as the adaptation side. So that would be focused on what are our projected adverse events and how do we focus on reducing and preventing the impact and vulnerability to the community from them. So those are really parallel, simultaneous tracks towards sustainability and resiliency for the community. So the renewable energy roadmap is the climate mitigation piece to the town's climate adaptation plan, the coastal assessment resiliency plan. So the report was written by hired consultants, GDS and Optany. The project team included town staff from natural resources and planning departments, the energy sustainability town board liaison, Councilwoman Rogers, and representatives from the Energy Sustainability Committee, specifically Lena Tambori and Craig Van Sickle, really spent an enormous amount of effort on this project. All the recommended strategies are backed by data collection and analysis, and they're informed by market trends, forecasts, and community input. The solutions were also quantified with their level of impact, financial costs, and even staff time associated with them. So in developing a project of this scale, it's very easy to get very technical and detail oriented, but we tried to make sure that we were always zooming out also around a couple key core concepts to make sure that the project was on the right track. So a few of them are outlined here, one of them being to transition buildings and vehicles to the cleanest energy option available, so electricity, and then pairing renewable energy generation with electrification so that the energy that you're pulling from is a clean source. Another concept is pairing electrification with energy efficiency, so making every effort to lower the amount of energy you're consuming so it's easier to meet it with renewables. And then another key one is that the town is really in a great position to set an example. We have over 30 municipal buildings, over 200 vehicles. So there's a lot that we can do in sustainability efforts of what we own and manage, all of our properties as well. And Another key role is for us to help engage the community. The community's active participation in the clean energy transition is such an important key part of this, especially being that the goal that the town formed wasn't just for our municipal operations to be met with renewable energy, but to look at a really community-wide scale of how we can address these issues.
And that, I'm just going to interject here something for Gloria and Tom and Ian in the composting effort. That is how that effort ties in. None of these things are isolated. To reduce food scraps in our waste stream helps us with the strategy of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. It's a direct correlation. So that's why these programs are just as important as looking at electrification, et cetera.
Right, absolutely. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions, it's a global problem, but a local problem and even a personal problem. We're talking about how we're powering our own homes, how we travel, how we live, the products we're consuming, the food we're eating. It's all very personal, and a lot of these sustainability decisions are probably made amongst families and friends around the kitchen table just talking about it. We really play an important part as a municipality to help provide information to the community and to connect them to the resources and reduce hurdles along the way. Okay, so now we're getting down to the different tasks that the roadmap actually outlines. So community choice aggregation is a program that the town might want to consider. It's where the town can buy electricity packages on behalf of community members, so that way there's transparent control of the type of energy that's serving us. The choice part of community choice aggregation refers to the choice of which energy resource we're getting our electricity from. So solar, nuclear, fossil fuel. Having different mixes of energy is an option. So you can go with a 50-50 mix or 100%. Those, of course, have different costs to users. Right now, the town's best position might be to see what Southampton town is doing. There's been conversations with them. They're a little bit further along because they did contract with a CCA administrator, which is in charge of managing the program. Also, we might want to leave a door open to really make sure we have a bulk purchasing power by working with our close municipal partners. The more customers we have, probably the better argument we have to get a better price for everyone.
So if I just may say an update on that, since December, we, of course, the town, before I was on the board, put in the legislation and the code to allow for CCA and create the structure for it. We put that in place immediately on the last iteration of a roadmap. And I have had meetings with the folks from Southampton, with my counterparts on the town board there, on their efforts to bring CCA to the town. We have options of coordinating with our local municipalities in a regional way, kind of that bulk purchasing idea, or we can go out to bid on our own. Right now, Southampton, although they did hire the administrator and they are actively seeking RFPs, there still is the Long Island challenges that we've come across before to be able to bring CCA, and that's contracts with LIPA that state that wherever you generate power, you have to basically pay LIPA a tariff for the same amount of power. So that would send double costs for everyone. So Southampton is diligently working for workarounds, and we're keeping a close contact with them as they do.
So another option on here is community solar. So that's a program where participants can buy or lease a portion of solar panels in an array. That solar array can be on or off site. This allows people to participate in solar with removing certain barriers like the big upfront cost to doing it, as well as renters, affordable housing, rooftops that aren't suitable if there's too much shading on the property. So this provides an option for someone to get their energy from solar without actually having to pay for the installation and do it on their property.
And we're actively pursuing that. I know the proposal for the senior center has quite a amount of solar on its roof. We found, working with Katie Casey, and a grant that she received, East Hampton Housing Authority, has been able to overcome that metering issue and be able to offer community solar on rooftops for our community housing developments, which is quite big. And also, Kim Shaw is working with NYSERDA on the Build Ready project, which identifies sites for community solar and has an enhanced structure for kind of taking us out of the construction game on that and getting it ready for us to go out for leasees.
Great. Yeah, and with the Clean Energy Communities Program, they're another resource too. They have scoping documents that you can work with them on how we would set up a community solar program that residents can sign on to be a part of. So that would be a combination of working with NYSERDA and also PSE&G to actually get a solar developer to work with us. Okay, so some more municipal projects that could be done. So electrification of our heating and cooling equipment. So I know James was just talking about some of the work on the Playhouse. And then earlier today, Jeannie was talking about the bids for the sanitation HVAC. So the town is actively in the process of doing this transition. We adopted a policy that HVACs that are new or replacing old ones, that they should use non-fossil fuel options. Another task item is to complete energy audits for all of our facilities. So this would identify any inefficiencies, so recommendations for installation improvements, maybe windows, resolving drafts, upgrading appliances. And then lastly on here is just using the different town properties to make sure that we're increasing the amount of solar. So using our buildings as well as land to do rooftop solar, ground mounted solar, solar parking canopies, and then pairing that with battery storage and EV charging where it's possible. Okay, and we touched on this earlier, but another big role is that the town can support community members' adoption of sustainability-related projects through being a source of information. So last year, the town did a series of educational panel discussions on sustainability topics. So those are all available to review on the Energize East Hampton website. LTV was a huge help in organizing the whole thing, and it was really great to be a part of it. Everything looked so professional, and the experts were so engaging to talk to, and very, very good sound bites. Yeah, those are great to look back on and watch. The Energize East Hampton program in general, it has a couple different campaigns under it. Solarize, home energy audits, and green heating and cooling. So they all provide information, but also connect anyone interested with contractors that specialize in those areas. During the roadmap's development, there were 2 surveys that went out. One of them was more geared towards stakeholders, so town staff, decision makers, people on committees, and then there was a separate one that was meant to be part educational piece to the public, but also gathering input on their feedbacks and issues. That survey actually had close to 170 responses, which I thought was really amazing and impressive, the amount of people that took the time to fill out the survey. We wanted it to be short. It wasn't that short, so I really appreciate everyone that responded. But something that came out of that survey was a question on what would be a challenging aspect to installing solar, and one of the answers that ranked very high of a lot of people, that it was finding and selecting a contractor was a very difficult hurdle in people's mind. So that prompted the Energize East Hampton program to relaunch a Solarize campaign, which does exactly that, connecting people with a pre-vetted and approved installer that the town went out to RFP to select.
You know what else I wanted to mention, Sam? I know Kate brought up the East Hampton Housing Authority. They're making the 3 Mile Harbor project. The roof is solar ready, and they've installed solar on their Avalon project, and they have plans over the next 5 years to add it to their other properties. But we're also with the Cantwell Court, like we made a decision that those homes are going to be all electric, and they're going to be, have solar on the roof. So I think that that's ways that we can, build that into. And Kate mentioned the senior center with solar. That is also, all electric. And we're going to have the folks that work in the kitchen learn to, use induction stoves, because that's not something they're used to using. So, this is just ways that we can lead by example, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. No, showcasing all these different projects and showing it's possible, and also being able to talk to someone about what the process was, or with people learning how to use induction, what the benefits are, and how they got used to it, how they feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, just one other thing, as well as the contractor, one aspect I've heard anecdotally from people with concerns with regards to installing solar is the challenge of when it comes to selling the property, if it's something that's been financed by the contractor or the provider of the solar panels, the complications that creates in terms of the sale, because there's a lien on it. Right. Have you seen any municipalities find kind of ways to address that issue at all, or is it, or did you actually hear that feedback at all when you were kind of looking at surveys across the town?
Yeah, no, I'm not too familiar with that. I'm wondering who we could reach out to. I mean, yeah, maybe someone in Southampton town might have some information on if they've been able to help anyone with that. Or we could reach out to Sun Nation as our Solarize campaign installer. Maybe they have some advice to give us. Okay. Oh yeah, and to mention with Energize East Hampton too, it can also be expanded to include other campaigns, like a community solar one that we were talking about earlier, or an electric vehicle campaign. That's another suggestion from NYSERDA. So that would be the same concept of connecting residents with information, but also with dealerships to work with. So some other avenues that the town can use to facilitate community involvement, a partnership with LIPA and PSE&G. So they have different incentives and rebates, which technically we're all customers of PSE&G, so we are paying for those programs to exist. So kind of just trying to have a line of communication and a partnership that's a little bit more collaborative in trying to direct the resources of those programs to East Hampton.
And it's interesting, our former contact for Senator Schumer's office, Mike Iannelli, has since left. He's no longer the regional director. Actually, a local East Hampton resident is Adam Hornbuckle. But Mike went to PSE&G into their Green Initiatives program. So we now have a contact there. So we're looking to work with Mike and bring him out and get some conversations going.
Yeah, and developing that relationship wasn't even in the roadmap.
There you go.
That's great.
That's great. And then, so another thing is streamlining the permitting process for different energy activities. So removing hurdles in the application, permit review, cost or inspection processes, just really trying to make it a smooth and easy process for people to do these initiatives that we really want them to partake in, looking at fee structures as well. Another one is updating our building codes for new construction and substantial expansion. So that would be lowering HERS or ERI ratings over time to increase the level of efficiency that new buildings are being designed to. So this would be minimizing the amount of emissions and pull of energy from the grid by new building stock coming in the community.
And then on the zoning code work group, we're looking at new construction as solar ready, induction stove ready. I know that there is infrastructure that's a lot cheaper, as we were just talking about with the Playhouse, to put it in place during the construction projects rather than try to retrofit. So we're taking a look at that in that group as well.
Yeah, definitely new building stock is a great place to target rather than the existing building stock. And yeah. Okay, and I think this is my last one on here. So it's engaging in microgrid studies. So that would be pairing solar and battery storage in different locations. So feasibility, engineering, and then actual development. So this would be a strong effort to increase the resiliency of our energy infrastructure. So it would be important to really prioritize critical and emergency facilities, look at key areas in the community that would maybe be most at risk to shocks and stresses in the system. So talking about weather events, high winds, flooding, even heat waves that can cause outages, and where outages for a lengthy period of time might be most likely to occur, and looking if microgrids are possible in those areas. These are extremely costly projects, but it might be something that if we had cost estimates and a feasibility plan, a scope of work, that FEMA funding might be an option for this.
I'd like to get started on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I think that is everything.
So from what I understand, we've had one public hearing. We need to have a second public hearing. Everyone that spoke at the first public hearing was in support of the roadmap, if I recall correctly. So Rob, are we now that we've brought this back, you know what?
We can schedule
the second meeting?
Yes. We just have to make sure the secret is completed.
Okay. So is that something, Kate, you would follow up with?
So, Sam, I do have one question for you. And again, look, I've seen this previously, and I really like everything that's in here, especially the resiliency piece at the end. I love that. The one aspect I kind of look at this as well from a mitigation perspective is the use of our resources, and additionally, like the waste within, literally the physical waste, how we manage our waste, I think is a huge drain of energy, and there's more efficient ways to look at that too. I'd be interested to know if any other municipalities have kind of included that in their energy roadmap at all. And then just also from a town operations perspective, I know we've discussed as a board, are there measures we can take to improve our environmental footprint? What are best practices that we should be adhering to as a town with regards to recycling operations, et cetera, and how to put those into play. That's just the other piece I'd like to see.
Okay, great.
So, Kate and I have had conversations that it would be, we looked into the possibility of having a sustainability officer here for the town.
A sustainability officer, a sustainability coordinator, because while this is an energy roadmap that's specific to transmission of electricity, how to reduce and mitigate, I think the next step, and I look forward to getting this portion adopted, but I do think the next step is to look at the town's sustainability, which is a much more encompassing look at things. We were committed back in 2013 and beyond, and the first municipality to do so, to commit to the renewable energy portion, and that's why the Southwick Wind Farm was so important to us, and all of these efforts that we're talking about today. But I think now that we have this type of look on our energy, we need to incorporate what the idea of sustainability is and push that out in all of areas, which is, I think, encompasses what you're referring to. It's a much broader topic. I know that I belong to some networks, peer-to-peer networks across the state for folks working in this world, and there are municipalities out there that have sustainability coordinators, sustainability officers that look at the global issue across the town and take into consideration waste management, kind of put all the pieces together. And for me, and in talking to Kathy, this is the next place that we should go. We're good. I think we're good with our direction in energy sustainability, but as again, under the umbrella of sustainability, that is one topic. And to expand our studies and our focuses out to full sustainability, and which is very important for resiliency as well. Again, this is not just, nothing is just one thing, it's all connected. Would be our next steps as a town board to direct that.
Right. But we've inquired with civil service and
Yes.
they don't have that title.
Suffolk County Civil Service does not have that title in their list of titles, so that's something, our first step.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just a couple of things. First of all, induction stoves, nobody be afraid. We've talked about learning it. It's very easy. They're great.
You have one?
Yeah, I do. You turn them on, it gets hot instantly, and
Did
it
you need
works.
to get infrastructure? Because I know Gordian Racky, who's a renewable energy Long Island, they had to put more electrical infrastructure in, I think another 220 panel or something like that. So did you have to do that?
Nothing major, but I have an all-electric house and it's fairly small, so that's, one of the few big ticket items, but it's great.
Yeah.
Nobody be afraid of learning induction. They're very easy to use, and
Did you have to get all new pots and pans?
yes, that's the one thing, is only special pots or
But there's
particular
nothing
pots
wrong
work.
with if you like to cook, getting a whole new set of pots and pans is great. Plus, usually where ours are like 100 years old.
But then my other thing, I just wanted to bring this up, and I mentioned this to Sam yesterday, is CCA is, I've heard about this concept, and I understand that it helps with our percentage of getting to the point where our use here is less reliant on fossil fuels. My concern is whether we would be making a real world impact, in that if we are just choosing to pay more for our energy, but not actually causing the creation or the use of more sustainable energy, then I don't know that there's any real world impact. And so, for example, if 20% of current energy production is, and these are just random numbers, are sustainable, but only 5% of the people are choosing to buy sustainable energy, there's no real world shift except for out of our pocketbook. And so I just want to better understand, how many communities or how much difference that really makes. It's important for us to feel good and do our part for sure. But I just want to make sure that there's a real difference and not just on paper.
I mean, I would just speak to that quickly. I'd say, from my perspective, it does twofold. One is, as a municipality is doing it, it begins to create a market for it. So for people looking to go into that field, they have some knowledge that there's a potential revenue stream that municipalities or other government organizations will be buying electricity from those sources. I would say where you've seen this succeed elsewhere across Europe, you're now seeing with models like this, over 50% of electricity generation is now coming from renewable sources. So I think, that beginning investment really does begin to grow this to something bigger. That's at least my perspective.
Yeah, no, I
So the other issue about that is that, geographically isolated, and we don't have a lot of land, so we have limited opportunities to provide clean renewable energy in terms of solar, et cetera. You can't put it on protected lands, how many roofs we have in the town. We don't want to take away our best carbon sinks, which are trees, to put up solar. That's kind of counterintuitive. So for municipalities like ours or Southampton or some upstate, the choice is to be able to look for where you can purchase it and offer that option, because will be limited on what we can produce. Fortunately for us, on the other side of the coin, is we have a world-class offshore wind resource that is in development now, which may actually take the place of looking for it in other places, which drives the cost up as well.
Yeah, no, I fully reserve the right to be wrong on this one. In fact, I suspect that at least.
No, I think it's a good question.
I partially am, but my point is if there's not enough communities that ever commit to this to actually drive new production, all we're doing is buying energy at a more expensive rate that already exists. So if we choose to spend more on wind or solar or something, I agree with you in terms of, opening the door to having energy produced elsewhere that's part of the grid. I would want that step to have meaningful impact on actual emissions and not just where we source ours. So, and again, I'm probably missing something here, or maybe there's a big wave coming. I'd be happy to be on the, early edge of that, but I just want to make sure there's meaningful results.
Yeah, I think taking a look at, and I think we can provide this information, the amount of greenhouse gases that are produced hourly in a power plant, powered by fossil fuels versus clean energy can quantify that cost for you.
Right. No, I get the impact of fossil fuels versus sustainable. It's just a question of whether are doing a CCA or committing to that would lead to more sustainable energies rather than fossil fuels. That's
I mean, again, going back to Kate's earlier point, sustainability, I mean, I think this is one that's being looked at countywide. I mean, one of the things, and I don't honestly quite know where I fall on it right now, is the incineration of waste as a means of creating electricity. So this is something at a county level they're pursuing fairly hard, and their goal is to have the municipalities pay the same rate that wind farms would be per kilowatt of electricity for the incineration of waste to produce electricity. Now, you know, there's, depending on where you kind of look at that kind of operation, there's pros and cons to it.
Well, it does produce greenhouse gases.
Right, it does. But relative to like shipping that refuse to Ohio where it's buried or other means, it's like, so I think. So
what's the offset?
Exactly. So what is like the right, you know, having those numbers to kind of say, hey, look, this is going to give us the best electricity at the right cost with the minimal impact, I think is a very key consideration. I think that's where you're going with your.
And in terms of an environmental justice perspective, which is also very important, where those are sited and the frontline communities that will get the most impacts, well, we're far away and we won't have them, is also something we need to take in consideration.
100%. I think, you know, it's an interesting one, that as well, because, you know, while you can have them on site and there can be issues, you also then have like the trucking or the transferring it out to other areas of economic justice of existing waste. So it's balancing those elements, I think, is the key.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Thanks, Samantha.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, so we are through our topics for today, and Tom, are you
Liaison reports.
tee you up to do the liaison report?
Yep, we had, as mentioned, a very good lighting presentation to the subcommittee a while back. I've been in contact with our consultants on this, LKMA, just to kind of get an update of timing for the draft presentation to the town of what is being proposed. I'm waiting to hear back for that from LKMA. Cranberry Hole Road Bridge, I know a lot of residents in the Amagansett area have been reaching out about this. The latest I have on this is from Albany is that the LIRR have their initial design, they're internally finalizing that design, and they hope to schedule a meeting with the town by the end of the month to discuss that. Moving on to Amagansett area, just kind of want to give a heads up of some of the larger special events taking place in Amagansett over the coming 10 days. On the 20th, which is today, there will be an event at Quail Hill Farm from 3 p.m. On the 22nd, there will be an event at 30 Cross Highway from 10:30 to 12:30 p.m. On the 24th, there'll be an event at 150 Town Lane from 1:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Also on the 24th, there's an event from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Ocean View Lane. We have events on the 31st at the following location: Atlantic Avenue at the beach, 6 to 7 p.m., Atlantic Avenue, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then 161 Town Lane, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. IT, we did the budget review for 2025. We will be setting up a meeting for later this week to review the progress of OpenGov. And I'm also working with the IT department just to understand the bandwidth capabilities and needs for the different town locations should we need capital projects there. Human Services, nutritional program data, the unduplicated congregate meal count for the week of August 12th through August 16th was 89, and the grab and go count for the corresponding week was 65. One update we want to give people as well. Initially, we had mentioned that there would be a cancellation of the chair yoga flow class. That is not actually correct. That will be occurring this Friday, August 23rd at 8:30 p.m. There will be a chair yoga class. Sanitation, Gloria and her amazing team have continued to astound us with the sheer amount of volume they are producing from sanitation. I just wanted to share some stats from that. I'll pull them up here. Apologies for the delay here. Sorry, folks. You know, Gloria, you're going to get the email around midnight, which is great. So, all right. So last year, our best week was 424 pounds of food scraps and 42 drop-offs. This year, we've collected up to 614 pounds with 89 drop-offs. So roughly a 50% increase in the amount of composting we're doing. Our grand total for what we moved in terms of compost was 2,082 pounds. This year, we're already over 4,500 pounds. So again, almost, close to 100% increase. So the composting program is going extremely well. Again, it's a great way for us to be both energy efficient and kind of be conscious of what we are creating as waste, but turning it into a resource. So I will continue to support that as and how possible. I think it's a great program. ADU implementation, we are still continuing to look very specifically this week at ownership of ADUs. Historically, and in what is in the town code, is that for a person to build an ADU, the property has to be their primary residence. We're having discussion with that at a committee level. I understand, the board had looked at this in the past. It's something we're looking to revisit, so I'd be interested to work with each of you to understand your perspectives on, what your view is on primary principal ownership of a property for that. It is somewhat complex because, as the housing department's called out to us, it's not a very clear definition of something being a principal residence. Peconic Estuary, working with Dr. Joyce Novak and CCOM, just looking at the water quality reports for Fort Pond. PEP is looking at ways that it can support the town in efforts to address the long-term water quality issues there. I was just wondering what would be timing for an update? I understand that Dr. Chris Gobler did his presentation to the trustees on the pollution that's taking place in there and gave a pretty clear indication of some of the drivers of what's creating the pollution in that water body. What are next steps for us as a town in conjunction with organizations to continue to improve that? I know we've given funding through CPF for some of the commercial properties around there, which I think will make a significant difference, but other outreach areas, just looking across properties adjacent to that water body that have upgraded IA systems, it's not really where I'd like to see it. So is there potential to do community outreach to those property owners?
So Tom, when you say it's really not where I'd like to see it, is that based on data or?
Yeah, no, that is, well, I would say if we were to say that probably 80% of properties adjacent to that water body don't have upgraded IA systems, that to me is disappointing.
You're saying that water body?
The Fort Pond, apologies, yes. So, we have that data. We obviously can't share it at an individual address level, but, it's something that if we're going to make a significant impact to the health of that area and with its water quality, that's something I would kind of be looking to address and incentivize as much as possible, but, other mechanisms. So just getting involved, because we continue to see from those CCOM reports that Fort Pond's water quality is continuing to be a challenge.
And other bodies across the town.
Other bodies across the town, 100%.
We have to look at all water.
Yep, no, 100%.
Not just Fort Pond.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm also the government manager coordinator with the Peconic Estuary Committee, so working with Joyce and others on that team. I think our next meeting is coming up, so we'll look to address that.
Great, thank you. Just our next meeting is not till after Labor Day, September 3rd. So, I understand there's a lot of incredible work that's gone in from PD and EMS and fire departments for a crazy summer. There's a week to go. Just thanking everybody for the hard work they put in there to help keep the town safe. It's been an eventful summer, and the finish line is not near. The East Hampton Marine Museum restoration, there will be a meeting this Thursday at 12:30 p.m. with James Pincott, Steve O'Brien, myself, and Stacey Myers from that organization to do a walkthrough of the building to review both the immediate and long-range maintenance issues we're looking at in that location. Councilman Lee, you're invited to attend that too. Your knowledge of that facility is second to none.
Thank you for inviting me.
Special events and film, it's another group our special events coordinators have done a phenomenal job this summer. We've had successes. We've had, obviously we've heard back from the public on some areas it didn't work. I just want to kind of say to the public, if there are concerns you have over what you've seen with regard to special operations, do feel free to reach out to myself, Deputy Supervisor Rogers as well, as we kind of look to review the season as a whole. Getting that feedback from you as the public, I think, is critical.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. And also just to remind, I know it's your first year on the board, but we do a full analysis for the community of the Special Events Committee permitting, how many, where, and then we do a post-mortem, so to speak, on what codes we need to address. And that happens beginning right away in the fall, as soon as the season is over. So that'll be a process we'll be looking for input from the community, but we'll be also presenting to the town board with the recommendations from the committee.
Great.
That happens in the fall.
Great. And do we do the mechanism for feedback from the public? Do we ever hold a public hearing on anything like that, or no?
Well, we'll hold the public hearing on the codes once
code
we
changes.
draft them, but as we're all very accessible to the public through our email addresses and telephone, et cetera. And then also, besides just hearing from the public, what's important for me also is to listen to the folks that sit on the committee that are the first responders, the people that can give us that type of feedback
100%.
as we move forward as well. So we take that into consideration along with our attorneys.
Excellent. East Hampton Youth Task Force, school is starting again soon. We will reconvene meetings this coming September for that committee. Anti-bias task force, we had a meeting last week. We're following up to do a continuation of the diversity program with Brenda Simmons coming up at this month. Wildlife Management Advisory have reached out to the town supervisor, the highway supervisor, to inquire on timing and cost of potential permanent signage for wildlife crossing locations, just so we can have that discussion. Business committee, again, that's been on recess for this summer, but, for business operators as a whole, as summer wraps up, I'm very keen to hear from businesses as to what worked, what did not from you, and what does the town need to know from a business operation perspective. So do feel free to reach out to me on that one. Emergency preparedness, we are rescheduling the meeting for August 23rd at the chair's request, and due to myself taking my daughter off to college this weekend. However, we will be addressing some of the issues via email that we need to continue work on. And lastly, tick control. I have most committee members lined up to start this committee. The last piece I'm waiting on is a biologist. I've reached out to Dr. Scott Campbell to see if he would be able to join this committee. It's one aspect of this committee is to examine the disease impacts at a human level. The other aspect of this committee's goal is to understand the life cycle of the tick and the disease itself. If we are unable to find a biologist to be on the committee as a volunteer, it's something I would like to discuss with other town board members as to whether we can get funding to hire a professional to come in and advise us on that, just to understand how we can make interventions in the life cycle of the tick to mitigate exposure for the public as a whole. And that's my liaison report.
Thanks, Tom. David?
Effective immediately yesterday, there are multiple locations in the town of East Hampton that are closed to shellfish harvesting because of the heavy rainfall. These locations include Northwest Harbor, lying east of the line extending northerly from Barcelona Point to Cedar Point, Three Mile Harbor, Hall Creek, Accabonac Harbor, and Nepean Harbor and Montauk Harbor are all immediately closed to shellfish harvesting. Please contact the DEC Bureau of Shell Fisheries for regular updates or go to their website about when they might reopen. Also in aquaculture, the third oyster reef has been installed in Accabonac Harbor this summer with the assistance of the East Hampton High Schoolers and South Fork Sea Farmers. They're looking to install other ones. One has been permitted in the oyster reef in Three Mile Harbor, the end of Boatyard Lane, and it should be deployed sometime in June of 25. They're also working with the Friends of Haven Beach, John Dunn, that is, our head of aquaculture, about an oyster reef potentially in Northwest Harbor then to be deployed also in 2025. Currently, right now, there's a nice crop of about 2 million oysters in that Peak Harbor that they'll be seeding shortly. Also, a nice crop of about 6 million hard clams in the floating upweller systems in 3 Mile Harbor. Unfortunately, poor bay scallop production in the hatchery has happened this season, and that is being supplemented by spat collection, mostly from 3 Mile Harbor then too. I thank John Dunn and his staff for producing those results. East Hampton Town lifeguards, again, the beaches withstood the impacts of Hurricane Ernesto monitored really well. There was some sand erosion in some of our location, but the water was still high enough. It pushed in from the storm. True impacts won't be assessed for next couple of days. Specifically in locations where there is road runoff in Big Albert's parks. The parks crews are in the process of resanding some of these access points today. Surf conditions were dangerous over the weekend to the public, though the public generally heeded the warnings to stay out of the water. There were still a handful of rescues, with the count standing at 233 current rescues of this season, which tied the record set from 2021. So we do anticipate that this will be a record year for rescues in our oceans and our bays. The East Hampton Town is also in the midst of their summer lifeguard drawdown. Even given some of the last minute hires, some of our stands will be closing shortly. But our ocean beaches will stay on, effectively open for lifeguard is swimming for the 2 weekends following the Labor Day Monday. Starting August 21st, Gin Beach will close, then followed by Maidstone and South Edison West on August 25th. Lifeguards will continue to be supervising the other protected areas of Indian Wells, Atlantic Ave, Kirk Park, South Edison, and Ditch Plains and Albert's Landing as discussed through Labor Day weekend. Then too. In the Parks Department, fall soccer, grades 1 through 6, fall soccer registration are available online. Also, the turkey trot is also available online for registration through Elite Feeds, and people can access both registrations through the town's recreational webpage. Also, to just go into some of the conversations about the tennis courts that have a pickleball overlay on them at the SYA in Montauk. These are actually tennis courts that pickleball has been added to it. And multiple times, the Buildings and Grounds Department are actually fixing the tennis courts heights on there, but those tennis courts and the heights of them might be being changed by individuals looking to change it for different sports. So it's producing another conflict. So it's not that they were installed incorrectly, it's that the other user groups are actually changing them without actually alerting the Buildings and Grounds or the Recreational Department. We will continue to fix them as needed, but note that there's 2 different sports being used there, and that the heights of these locations will be adjusted, not just by the users, but we will try to fix them accordingly as tennis courts. I talked with Superintendent Highway Steve Lynch about the flooding from the heavy rainstorms. Luckily, we escaped a lot of what happened west of us. Most of our infrastructure held up very well, and we just saw traditional areas of flooding, either in Amagansett or Montauk, that the town is addressing as we move ahead. And also, a lot of it was on 3 Mile Harbor, which, as the supervisor knows, we are working on that as part with the county, and hopefully get that done in 2026, because Springs Fireplace Road was pretty clear.
Yeah, I think the Gardner's Avenue and Springs Fireplace Road was closed for a couple hours in the morning. I was going to actually touch on this, if you don't mind, in my liaison report. So we did have to close about a half a dozen roads on Monday morning. And what PD is reporting that, all roads are open and passable, although Shore Road at Industrial Road and Second House still has a sizable puddle there. And the cones have been left in place to alert motorists.
Sure. That's a traditional issue that we have, high groundwater and super high water that's in Fort Pond that's flooding over top and too. So all that was, unfortunately, it's been historically issue and problems. I want to let the town board know that while I was not here last Thursday, I did watch all the public hearings and the comments, reviewed them all. I have my own comments, and I'm ready to vote on any upcoming measures or resolutions that may be coming forward. So I do appreciate Tom moving a lot of my resolutions forward, so I'm prepared to do that as needed then too. Lastly, this is our last town board meeting before school starts. School starts either, I believe, on the 3rd or the 5th, depending on what school you're going to be into on there. It also means that kids are going to be on their way to schools. So as we prepare as far as community to get ready for it, we also have to prepare as being drivers and slow down for the children going to school on their routes. Needless to say, we've had all of our school crossing lights and crosswalks surveyed by Buildings and Grounds working with Highway right now. There are a couple of crosswalks that we do need to repaint, but all our cross lights are actually functioning well then too, so we're getting ahead of that. But as in advance, it's only a couple of weeks to start of school. I hope we can all make sure that we yield to the children in the school and the crosswalks, and also to have a very successful school season upcoming. That's all I have.
Thank you, David. Kate? Yes, I'm going to give a brief update today. First, I'm going to start with the Ditch Plains Dune project. We are now preparing visuals mapping to be able to bring out what a FEMA compliant dune would look like in terms of view shed and in terms of impact on the community, to build this dune that will protect the community and also be eligible for FEMA funding in a disaster. So that's, we should have those visuals very soon. Kim Shaw and Mark Abramson, Natural Resources, are out there taking pictures this week, and we'll provide those to the contractor, and we'll get working on that. Unfortunately, I was ill yesterday and not able to attend the Energy and Sustainability Committee meeting. However, I will review the tape and speak to the leadership and have an update on that committee in my next report. The Litter Action Committee is, they meet on Monday, but prior to that meeting, they've reached out to me. They are planning a full court press on National Cleanup Day. It's the 3rd Saturday in September. Last year, we declared, and will again this year with your support, and the East Hampton annual. I'll be bringing up at my next liaison report their plan for making a huge visual impact across the town for that one day only. But I'm gonna ask them to give me some more information on that. But, you know, I just want to also acknowledge the hard work of this committee. These are mostly retired folks, folks that live in our community year round and go out and put, you know, protective vests on so they don't get run over, and go out there and help our town by not only creating the messaging and getting the word out every way that they can, but also going out there and picking up our folks' trash. And with that in mind, I hope folks always keep that in mind and take the alternative of disposing of trash in proper containers and not putting it out on groups like this to go out there and do it at their own volunteer free time. Just take a think about those folks along the sides of the roads picking up your trash, and please make an effort to pick up your own.
I would just want to add to that sanitation department of East Hampton Town, we face this same issue. There are people not using the receptacles correctly or dropping litter at the center there, and it's become a growing problem. I have discussed this with Councilman Rogers. You know, if separate to Litter Action, but if there's any volunteers that are interested in reaching out, and I will go with you, and we can do cleanup days on Wednesdays when it's closed to address the litter situation there. I'm also kind of working to add it to the community service options for people who do community service for the town to come in and help clean up that center, because it is in need of support. You know, because I don't know if you guys have been up there recently, but across the site itself, there is an immense amount of litter, and our existing crews at that location are fully flat out managing the workflow they have. So, you know, how we kind of look to clean up that area is something I'm working on.
Yeah, I'd like to look to explore actually, you know, additional support that the town provides rather than asking volunteers for that area. If we can have, like we do in other areas, have a cleanup crew come in, I think that would be beneficial. Is that it, Kate? All right. Ian?
Yeah, the spring CAC meeting that I had originally said was scheduled for tonight at 6 p.m. will actually be Monday, August 26th, next Monday at 6 p.m. And rather than Ashwalk Hall, the normal place, it'll be at Duck Creek. and the location may change in the future. But Monday, August 26th at 6 p.m. The agenda is the Maidstone Park Playground update. Also, we will talk about litter again, which is a common theme in that CAC among, as well as others. Overclearing, which has been a hot topic in that committee as well. The Pussy's Pond Bridge, which we heard a presentation about a bit earlier today. The Springs Library. And then there was a request to add on the lots on Gardner Ave that David Buda brought up today. I will just say this for everybody's benefit. We'll probably discuss that in the CAC as well. There are no clear plans for those lots. You know, we don't have a direct plan, but as you can imagine, you know, small housing lots, you know, affordable housing is one of the things we will consider. So that's all I can say. Open to conversation about what people think should happen or shouldn't happen there. And for the record, I live in Springs, so I pay taxes there too. I don't have any children, and so the school taxes that go to the children, I feel everybody's impact there, and still am happy to be looking at these lots for affordable housing or other use. The last thing I want to talk about is the ADU program. I had talked about my work with CHAB, the Community Housing Advisory Board, and our ADU assistance program. As everybody knows, there's this new fund that we have available to address the housing need directly. We launched our first-time home buyers down payment assistance program, and the ADU program was something else I highlighted as a carve-out separate from the general RFA category, which are currently being considered. That ADU program is currently on hold. I've had a number of inquiries about it, and it's on hold because there's some question about the tax implications. If we were to give grants or loans for ADUs, if the recipients would have, you know, an unexpected tax liability. And so this board decided to hire a law firm to ask the IRS to do a ruling. I'll just say there was some conversation and disagreement amongst the board. There's strong rationale for why we should wait, which is, you know, and people like Fred Thiel, who know a lot about this, recommended getting a formal agreement. I, however, would prefer to launch that program just with sort of a warning that people might have tax implications. But just so you know, that's the way we're going with that for now. I will say that CHAB was also in favor of launching the program, but in fairness, don't quite know as much about the nuance of tax implications. And so people might remember when there were grants given for septic upgrades, this was sort of a problem. And so I understand why we're sort of trying to avoid that again. And so I will update you as that program is launched, but it's looking like it will be probably not before the end of this year. And that is my report.
I just want to kind of, just for people to understand, Southampton, which is issuing grants, that they're actually issuing grants, and those are income restricted. One of the things about us issuing loans is we wouldn't have that same income restriction on people getting the construction loans. So it's a slightly different program to the Southampton one. I share your viewpoint on, you know, the role of
That's it.
Okay. So I wanted to share the East Hampton Town Police Department statistics for last weekend. Friday at 6 a.m. to Monday at 6 a.m. There were 281 calls for service, including 20 residential noise complaints, with 2 summonses issued and 3 commercial noise complaints, and all 3 were founded and summonses were issued. There were 13 motor vehicle accidents and 40 medical aided cases, 4 arrests, including 3 for DWI and 1 for assault, 52 citations issued, and 4 town code summonses. The Sirius XM concert at the Talk House went well. There were quite a few parking violation summons issued, but no incidents. And Sunday into Monday, we talked about when David did his report, the town police department was dealing with flooded roadways and several problematic intersections. We are going to be posting on the town website because yesterday I received a press release from Suffolk County that there were mosquito samples that were tested positive for West Nile virus. 26 mosquito samples were tested positive. 1 was in East Hampton. Most people infected with West Nile virus will experience mild or no symptoms, but some can develop severe symptoms, including high fever, headache, neck stiffness, stupor, disorientation, coma, tremors, convulsions, muscle weakness, vision loss, numbness, and paralysis. The symptoms may last several weeks, and neurological effects may be permanent. So on our social media, we'll be posting how to avoid mosquito bites. And this comes from Dr. Piggott at Suffolk County Health Commissioner. Minimize outdoor activities between dusk and dawn. Wear shoes and socks, long pants, long sleeve shirts. Use mosquito repellent. Make sure windows and doors have screens, and keep mosquitoes from laying eggs inside and outside of your home, emptying, and turning over, containers that could hold water, like pet water bowls, flower pot saucers, discarded tires, buckets, pool covers, etc. I did want to announce that the Stony Brook Small Business Development Center, a member of the Stony Brook University's Economic Development Organization, was thrilled to announce that the 2024 New York State Family-Owned Business Entrepreneur of the Year Award will be presented today at 2 p.m. To Daymark's Market. This event will celebrate the remarkable achievements of Daymark's Market, a third-generation family-owned business that has been a cornerstone of the East Hampton community for over 70 years. Since we're in session and we're going to be going into exec session, I'm not able to make it there. So Patrick Durenz, our public information officer, is going over, and he will also be recognizing the folks at Daymark with a certificate of appreciation from the town board. And lastly, I just wanted to say last week, we swore in 7 new police officers, 6 of which started the police academy yesterday, where they'll undergo rigorous training. One of the officers is the grandson of Barbara Borsak. Following the swearing in, I received an email from Barbara, which I would like to read. Dear Kathy, being at town hall this morning brought so many thoughts to my mind, and I had to share this one with you. Back in the early 2000s, my daughter Amanda and her husband Ben were seriously considering a move. They had a little boy, Micah, with another on the way, and having been living with my mother in her house because they were unable to find a reasonable place to rent and assumed they would never be able to buy. As we got to within months of them researching job openings in Pennsylvania, they suddenly heard from the town that their names had come to the top of the list on the affordable housing program. They were able to build a lovely home on Blue Jay Way, where they have raised their 3 boys, living in a wonderful neighborhood at the community they love. I'm getting a little emotional. Seeing Micah up there this morning being sworn into the East Hampton Town Police Department just made me think that this is the perfect outcome for all the work on affordable workforce housing that the town has been doing all these years. And how wonderful it is that this boy who grew up, who grew up in one of the homes made possible by the town, is now joining the ranks of one of our most important community resources. What a perfect full circle moment. Thank you and all the members of our town government for making this possible. I, for one, am very grateful. Barbara Borsak. This is why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
Okay. Whew. All right. Do we have any other business we need to bring up?
No, I have my resolutions.
Okay, let's do it.
I'd like to lay it off for Resolution 2024-1076. This is the appoint seasonal lifeguards for August 24th through September 16th, 2024. Names, positions, pay scales, and dates retroactive below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 1077 is a budget modification for common charges at 300 Panago. Budget, what we're bringing from budget lines for part-time salaries in the amount of $16,500, health insurance buyback in the amount of $500, and postage in the amount of $4,092 to the budget line for common charges in the amount of $20,092.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 1078 to offer. This is to accept a grant of scenic and conservation easement from Tourmalet LLC. We had a public hearing on August 15th on the proposed grant of the scenic easement to the town, and resolve the town hereby accepts the easement listed below. The grantor is Tourmalet LLC. The type of easement is scenic and conservation easement. Date of the easement is May 28, 2024. The location is 250 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-87-03-04. The reviewing agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1079 is to accept grant of scenic and conservation easement from Terry and Jackie Smith. Again, the public hearing was held on August 15, 2024, on the proposed grant of the scenic and conservation easement to the town. The town hereby accepts the easement listed below. The grantor is Jackie K. Smith II and Teresa J. Smith. The date of the easement, the type of easement is scenic and conservation. The date is April 2nd, 2024. The location is 93 Isle of Wight Road, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-23-2-24. The reviewing agency is the ZBA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1080 is to release security in URP 68 in MN-5, which is release of security in an urban renewable area, whereas a report has been received from the town's consulting engineer approving work in certain renewable areas. Resolve that the following security held by the town board is released. The applicant is Joan Likey, and that's care of Katie Osecki, East End Land Management and Land Planning, P.O. Box 2302, Amagansett. This is for URL parcel 63 and MN-5, map 1018, lot 5, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-19-2-44, and this is in the amount of $13,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1081 is the approval of special events. This is for the Bonnet Foot Race held in September. This is the Great Bonnet Foot Race, a fundraiser for local student scholarships and OMAC. The route starting at Springs Firehouse, 179 Fort Pond Boulevard. It's ending at back at the Springs Fireplace, and this will take place on Monday, September 2nd, from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1082, this is for Section 8, the 5-year plan and annual public hearing to be held at Town Hall on October 3rd, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1083, this is to accept bid number EH24-018, Old Stone Highway culvert replacement and invasive species removal, to award the bid to Keith Grimes, Inc. This is a two-part bid. The first part is for the culvert in the amount of $378,709.50, and Part B, invasive species removal in the amount of $279,299.75, for a total of $658,009.25.
Second.
All in favor?
So I'm completely in favor of, in the need for the replacement of the infrastructure of the Old Stone Culvert, but I'm not supportive of the Phragmite removal at such a large cost. I do know it's in our water plan to actually remove the Phragmites, and also within the Springs Historical District to completely open this view shed. But I think I would rather look into using other methodologies of Phragmite restraint, cutting or such, to be able to produce those results, because at this amount of money, it's over $250,000 for a small enough area for fragmite removals that I think the town should try in different means, and particularly in a way that I don't think there might not even be a root barrier installed there. So I support the work that needs to be done. I just don't necessarily, and even a Phragmite work to be done on them, I just don't think that the methodology is the one that I could support at this price point.
I thought when Jeannie was up here, it wasn't just the removal, it was also revegetation. Correct. And is there monitoring built into?
I don't believe there's monitoring built in as far as I know, but the cost does include putting down fiber core and plantings as well.
Correct. I just see the cost being high enough that I'd rather actually go with the other methodology first than in there. I know there might be an economy of scale, but in the entire area, as you can see on the north side, it's grown back on there. So I will probably respectfully just abstain from the vote on there.
Can I ask how long, do we know when this bid expires? How long this bid is good for? I mean, do we have time to have natural resources? I mean, I'm sure that they were the ones evaluating the bid.
Natural resource.
DEC combine these two permits into one permit, Ian, if I'm correct?
Well, there's a permit for it. The Natural Resources has been supportive. I spoke with them. We have a letter from the Water Quality Committee, and part of the funding will be coming from a water quality fund. So they were all supportive. Natural Resources is definitely supportive. In terms of the timeline, frankly, it is time sensitive. This project will have to be done sometime in September, October, before the weather gets too cold. So there's a fall window here. I don't know if we postponed accepting a bid until September, whether it'd be viable or not. I do understand and appreciate Councilman Lisa's concerns. In fact, the estimate for this part of the project was even more than the bid came back at. The bid came back at substantially lower than expected for the removal. And since there's going to be some disruption as part of the culvert replacement, that's why these two things were sort of linked up, although generally thought of as separate. But because we have the funding from, 80% from, or 85% from CPF water quality funds and 15% from the general fund, I think it makes sense to go forward with both. It would further complicate things if we didn't, because I think the low bidder on the culvert only would be a different contractor. So certainly if we're going to talk about accepting one and not the other, I think this would have to be postponed. I will just say, the presentation today, a big part of the cost on that project was also for fragmite removal. So, I don't know how that would change anything or.
Yeah, so to me, the difference on that the fragmite removal was a part of a larger water quality project. This is more of an infrastructure project that actually is not necessary for a water quality project. So I could see that over there, particularly when they're putting root barriers in there. But it was a part of a larger water quality project. And again, there's means I just want to be careful about the funding sources on there for other potentially requests going down the line too.
So, and also, I mean, I have a resolution following that talks about that we transferred or we reassigned a grant for the culvert for $250,000. That's going to offset the $378,709.50.
Correct. Yeah, that grant, originally $250,000, was one that was secured by Fred Thiel that we were going to use for the Gateway project in Montauk, but it had to be used for an infrastructure project. And then since this was the next one that was up, that's being redispersed. And again, it goes to the infrastructure aspect of it, which I completely support. Again, I like to see the project move forward. I just want to, on this aspect, I'm not in favor of.
Well, I still move forward fairly strongly. I think that it's something that we should do, and I think that now is the time to adopt.
All right, so Ian moved it.
Second.
Gerald, could you please do a roll call vote, please?
Roll call.
Roll call. Roll call.
Do we have to go on the road?
This is on 1083, I believe.
Councilmember Flight,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Abstain.
Councilmember Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember Colbert-Lima,
Aye.
Supervisor Burton-Brown.
Aye.
Resolution 1084, this is to retain L.K. McLean Associates, DPC, professional engineering services for Old Stone Highway culvert replacement and invasive species removal. This is to provide construction inspection in the amount not to exceed $43,200 and construction administration not to exceed $9,000 for a total cost not to exceed $52,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2024-1085 is to advance of funds for the New York State grant per Resolution 2023-1374. The Town of East Hampton reassigned a grant application in the amount of $250,000 in capital funding from the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York for the Old Stone Highway Culvert Replacement Project. And this directs the Budget Office to advance funds in the amount of $250,000 from the Highway Fund to be transferred through the appropriate budget line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Back to you, Tom.
Thank you. Resolution 1086, whereas the town board's listed bids for the installation of sanitation HVAC systems with bid EH 24027, whereas PGA Mechanical Contractors was the lowest received meeting bid specifications, be it resolved therefore that the bid of PGA Mechanical Contractors is hereby accepted for the total cost of $266,000 even and $82,517.17 to be taken from respective fund lines, $183,482.83 to be taken from line HA8790-52010230068 for the installation of sanitation HVAC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1087, this is to adopt local law to amend Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to change the maximum permitted density of senior-only affordable housing developments from 8 units per acre to 12 units per acre.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So I did review this public hearing, so I'm prepared to vote on it. I reviewed some of the comments out of the public hearing. I do believe that this should be a standalone resolution for senior housing only prior to any other discussion. So I disagreed with those comments at the time then too. I do appreciate that, and I do believe this is something that will benefit the community as a whole as we move forward, and particularly through senior housing.
Okay, so we had it moved, we had it second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Resolution 2024-1088 is to appoint part-time police officers to the East Hampton Town Police Department, Justin Garcia and Salvatore Loretta. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
1089 is the budget modification for the police department. We're moving $6,000 in uniforms to telephone. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
1090 is a budget modification for health insurance. And at the airport, we're moving $1,385 for workman's compensation to health insurance. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
1091 is a budget modification for the police department. And we're moving $2,300 from health insurance buyback to other, and this is to complete building upgrades at the police substation. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
1092 is to accept proposal for services and budget modification. And this is the town has obtained a proposal relating to consulting services for the Planning and Natural Resources Department from Capital Markets Advisors, LLC, in the amount of $8,500. And we're accepting that proposal. And we're also making a budget modification, moving the $8,500 from contingency to outside professional. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now we need a motion to go into exec session.
I'd like to offer a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?